Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the worst FNAF fan games the community has ever put out. Get ready for plenty of anger, frustration, and maybe a song or two. Let's go. Those Nights at Rachel's. That is the game we'll be talking about today. Am I excited to talk about this? Originally, yes, I was. It's a classic, and surprisingly, a classic I had actually never seen before. Made by Nixon, also known for this little FNAF game. I'm not totally sure if you've heard of it. It's kind of a little bit under the radar, you know, kind of a little bit underground, you could say, called The Joy of Creation. I was pretty excited to see what this game had in store for me, and then I played it. And after playing it, I can say I honestly thought there would be more to talk about. Expect a shorter video today, because when I tell you that this game is literally a bunch of nothing, I'm not lying. Strap in and get ready to dive into the very small world of Those Nights at Rachel's. Those Nights at Rachel's takes place in a restaurant called Doug's and Rachel's. We play as a newly hired night guard. I'm sure you would have never been able to figure that out. Yes, in fact, we do surprisingly play as a security guard in this Five Nights at Freddy's game. I know that's pretty out of the norm for a FNAF game, but hey, Those Nights at Rachel's was really trying to reinvent the wheel here, break the mold. Let's jump into the first night this game has to offer and really start going over a few of the major flaws I noticed. To start, the office is massive. We've got two big doors, pretty standard, and we've got two monitors, one for your cameras and the other for your door buttons, and a display which shows how much power you have remaining. Finally, there's a spare room off to the side that has some curtains, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But to start, I want to talk about what I personally feel is this game's biggest flaw. The majority of the things in Those Nights at Rachel's are redundant or not useful at all. I could explain every single reason right now, but I think it would be better to explain these problems as they become relevant naturally throughout the game. To start, let's talk about how the door monitor is actually useless completely. Now, you might be thinking, how could the monitor that allows you to close the door be useless? That's like literally the main mode of defense in a lot of FNAF games. Well, here's where we get to talk about something really cool, and something in retrospect I'm not a huge fan of in FNAF games. Keybinds. Keybinds in most games serve to make the experience more comfortable for the user, and in a lot of cases, even in FNAF games, they can be used properly and work effectively. For example, Rachel's uses keybinds in a very good way, that being movement. While playing Those Nights at Rachel's, you'll see several arrows, and it may even look a bit overwhelming. Clicking these arrows will transport you around the office, whether that be turning, traveling to another room, peeking around a corner, or hiding under your desk. Ignoring the fact that these arrows are always present, which could lead to confusion as to when certain actions can be performed, with all of these buttons on screen and the fact we're in a 3D environment, adding keybinds for movement was a very smart idea, as you can use WASD to turn and move and E to peek around corners. This is a very good example of keybind integration into a FNAF game. Now it's time to talk about a very poor integration of the keybinding. Using the Z and X keys, you can shut the two doors in your office. Now, I want to be very clear that that mechanic by itself is not inherently a bad thing. Binding doors to a key on the keyboard can work. I think it worked well in a game like Ultimate Custom Night. However, here's the big difference between Ultimate Custom Night and Those Nights at Rachel's. UCM keybinds work not only because a large focus of the game's mechanics centralize around keybinds, actively making keybinding a mechanic of the game itself, but without keybinds, the game would probably be completely impossible. While yes, a lot of the things could be controlled solely by your mouse in UCM, it's also not possible to do multiple things at once with your mouse like is required by UCM. So in that case, I think keybinding works and is good. Those Nights at Rachel's uses keybinding in a way that makes an otherwise interesting mechanic completely useless. You will never have to look at the second monitor in your office throughout your entire playthrough. Adding keybinds to the doors has made it useless. And that's what I mean. And that's the pattern you're going to notice as we continue to talk about the game. Mechanics making other mechanics useless. This is, in my opinion, the prime example of this in Rachel's. but we'll talk about a few more as we go on. On night 1, we get a phone call from a teenager who sounds like he's about to neck himself.
Hello and welcome to your new job, Doug's and Rachel's.
Before transferring us to a live call with the manager of the establishment.
Hello? Hello? Are you there?
At first, that might sound cool. Popco's did a somewhat similar mechanic where you could interact with the phone guy by asking a question at the end of the call. Rachel's doesn't do that. It just acts as a normal phone call, but you know, that's really nitpicky. We're told the basics of how the nights are going to play out. We're told point blank that the animatronics move around and that we will need to close the doors to defend ourselves, something that isn't typically seen in FNAF games. Transparency? That's nuts. Except not really, because after almost letting out the words saved my life, the phone guy chooses instead to say saved my job. So, I mean, not completely transparent, but you know, I guess that's progress. It's also during this phone call where we learn that recently a newer restaurant has been destroying the reputation of Rachel's, that restaurant being Freddy Fazbear's. Now, here's an interesting question. What could have possibly happened at Freddy's that would have made another establishment with robots look bad? Oh yeah, maybe death. Yeah, that'd do the job. I would love to keep talking about the night 1 phone call, but there's this really funny and quirky moment that happens during it. Something about Rachel's is that the nights are really short. So, and I'm not kidding, the phone call is literally cut short in the middle of a sentence because the night ends.
Sanitary and rude, but customers are customers. We don't need them.
Is this guy gonna shut the fuck up?
Hello and welcome to your new job, Doug's and Rachel's. We have the best animatronics and food available at the
What?
lowest prices.
What the fuck?
Straight up guaranteed. Since this is your first night at the job.
Okay. I guess that's night 1. What can I say? This is absolute peak cinema, and I've never seen anything better before in my life. But enough about the boring shit. What about what actually happens during the night? Well, if you were hoping for anything at all, put that thought away because literally nothing happens at all. And it's not even for a lore interesting way like FNAF 3, where nothing happens on night 1 because Springtrap isn't even in the building yet. No, animatronics move on night 1 in those nights at Rachel's, but they just never make it to your office, something that I promise you will be a common trend throughout your playthrough. But let's talk about the animatronics that activate on night 1. Literally every single fucking one aside from 2. Now relax. That may sound intimidating, but keep in mind I said you will never get attacked on this night. The only 2 characters that aren't active are Pete and Bane. However, I'm not going to explain the mechanics of each character that is active on this night right now to save you all from blowing your brains out. Instead, I'll just introduce characters as I talk about the nights and space them out a bit. Let's talk about the 2 characters you'll probably see the most, Rachel and Doug, the 2 faces of the restaurant. I really want to start by talking about Doug, since you will really be seeing him a lot. And I do want to preface that a lot is subjective for this game, since, no fucking joke, I probably had an animatronic reach my office less than 10 times throughout my entire playthrough. That's how much fucking nothing happens during this game, by the way. Doug does what you think a first active animatronic would do. Wanders around the building and eventually makes it to your office. If he gets to your door, you can check by peeking around the corner and flashing your flashlight, which I will admit does look pretty cool. And I think that having to peek him like a game of Valorant is actually a really interesting idea. Too bad I only got to do it about 4 fucking times. Obviously, just close the door and he leaves. Now we can talk about Rachel, except no we can't because she's literally just Doug. She does the exact same thing with no difference. I'm so happy I'm alive. I'm actually pretty sure that throughout my entire playthrough, never once was I attacked by Rachel. You know, the main fucking character in the game. I never saw her aside from in the cameras. Oh, and speaking of the cameras, they are a whole nother issue in and of themselves. They're worthless, kind of, pretty much. Now, to be fair, I'm aware this game was made really early on in terms of FNAF fan games, so to a degree, you can excuse mechanics not being perfect. But even in the original game, the cameras had a use. Now, I want to make it clear that yes, technically they aren't completely useless, with how infrequently the characters seem to move, it might as well be useless. So let's talk about this game's camera forcer, this game's Foxy, Ray the raccoon. Ray, quite literally, is just Foxy. Starts on one camera, has multiple different phases he'll move through before charging at your office and killing you. The way to stop him is easy, just look at the cameras. I'm not sure if he cares about you watching him specifically or just checking if you're on the cameras in general, but it honestly doesn't matter which one it is because he's the only character on the cameras that even matters, so you should probably just have your camera on him all the time anyways. Dxtr, you literally just explained how the cameras aren't worthless, yet you still called them worthless. Why? Why did you do that? That doesn't make sense. It really sounds like you're just being negative for the sake of being negative. While I personally never once saw Ray attack throughout the entirety of my playthrough, you do not have to check on Ray very frequently. Yes, if you never open the cameras, he will more than likely attack you, but even if you just check the camera once every 30 seconds, he's not gonna get you. I don't think looking at the camera for 1 second every 30 seconds is making use of the cameras. A game you could easily compare this to is Five Nights at Freddy's 1, a game that has you do pretty much the same thing. Really just opening the cameras without doing much of anything on them. And while I agree that the cameras in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 are generally useless, there's at least a few useful mechanics that can come from them. For example, we all know that your right door camera is really the only camera that matters, with the occasional check to Foxy to see what phase he's on. You could argue that having to look at 2 cameras rather than just one, like in Rachel's, already makes FNAF 1's camera system more useful, but I feel like that might be grasping at straws a bit. There is one other mechanic that the cameras have that can actually be pretty useful in a small handful of situations, that being forcing Foxy to attack faster using the right hall cam. When Foxy leaves Pirate's Cove, there's a range of time it will take for him to be at your right door. However, you can force the attack to happen sooner by checking the right hall camera, which can be nice if, for example, Bonnie is already at your door and you want to get the Foxy attack out of the way during that time, something I like to take advantage of during stressful modes like 420. I have to be transparent for a moment and mention that there very well might be a mechanic like the right hall mechanic in Rachel's. However, like I've already stated, I've never got attacked by Ray in my playthrough, so I never really got the chance to check, and the wiki doesn't explicitly mention anything like that either, so if it does exist, I walk back my criticism. However, something that you can't neglect is just that. I never got attacked. The cameras are somewhat useful in FNAF 1 because you can do something and you will be attacked by your camera animatronic. There is no FNAF playthrough where you're not attacked by Foxy. There are playthroughs where you're not attacked by Ray, and that's where the real issue actually lies. Anyways, let's move on to Night 2, which introduces Pete and the Thing. Let's start with Pete. He's Doug, except he goes to your other door. However, this does bring up another mechanic that would be interesting if it was actually ever useful: hiding under your desk. Only one door in your office can be closed at a time, so what happens if 2 animatronics attack your doors at the same time? Well, first of all, that's never gonna happen. You don't get attacked frequently enough, but even if it did, that's where hiding under the desk becomes important. If 2 animatronics are at your doors, you close one of them and hide under the desk until the other leaves. But now hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. If hiding under the desk can make the animatronics at your doors go away, do you even need to close the doors in the first place? Well, to my understanding, no. You don't need to close the doors for the door animatronics. You can always just choose to hide under the desk. Excuse me? You've just made an already semi-useless mechanic even more useless by designing another mechanic that solves the same problem without using up power. So the only time you actually ever need to close the door is when Ray is coming to your office, but we've already established that Ray is probably never going to attack you. So you literally never have to close the doors in a FNAF game. What? Okay, so that's pretty stupid. What about the other character on this night? The Thing. Maybe he'll be interesting. No. Hate to break it to you, but the answer is no. The Thing attacks from the curtain room. Throughout the night, the curtains will slowly open. If they open all the way, the thing will come out and kill you no matter what, since not even hiding will be able to save you, and there's no door to the room he comes from. So every once in a while, you'll have to run to the other room and close the curtains. How frequently do you have to do this? Well, on night 2, doing it once every hour will be enough, but with the lack of movement speed from any of the characters, even on the hardest nights in this game, you will have more than enough time to go over to the curtain and close it. You know it's sad when what I just explained to you is the most difficult threat in the entire game. Throughout the phone calls so far, it's been made clear that the goal of ours and the phone guy is to get a promotion, and the night 3 phone call continues that narrative. The phone guy mentions that the owner of the establishment has gone missing, and that the only reason that bothers him is that nobody can get a promotion unless he's present. So that's obviously concerning for that reason. It's revealed that the owner doesn't want to be tied to the establishment anymore, and I find that a bit weird. I get that Freddy has had a shady past, but from what I understand so far, this place doesn't, at least not directly. That's really all that's important from the phone call, so we can talk about some of the new threats on this night. Let's start with Bane. Fun fact, it's just Pete with a costume on. He does the exact same thing. Also, want to hear something crazy about night 3? From this point forward, it is literally impossible for Rachel to reach your office for the rest of the game, which means she was only ever able to reach your office on nights 1 and 2. But the craziest part? The chances of her ever reaching your office on nights 1 and 2 are borderline impossible because of how infrequently the characters move on the early nights, which means there is a very probable chance that you will not see the main fucking character of the game throughout the entire game. What the fuck kind of logic is that? And that's really it. Something I didn't mention about Bane, by the way, is that during this night, it is borderline impossible for him to make it to your door, so you never have to worry about him either. We love video game balancing over here on the Dxtr White channel. Night 4's phone call actually has some substance to it. Apparently, the boss is still missing and nobody knows where he is, which now apparently means we won't even get paid for the week we've been doing. Phone guy mentions possibly having corporate find another boss, a better one that would give us the raise we wanted. Phone guy mentions he was snooping around in the back room and found an unlocked phone in a drawer that was apparently the boss's. He says he wasn't able to look through it for long because another employee found him snooping around. The only thing he could see was that the phone had something about an old factory or pizzeria on it. Who really cares about any of that though? Are you ready for the most fun you've ever had playing a FNAF game in your entire life? Well, let me introduce you to night 4, where you'll probably have an animatronic at your door a total of 3 fucking times. Maybe 4 if you're lucky. By the way, I know I'm going to get comments about this, but yes, I am aware about the hard mode version of this game, which, as the name suggests, makes the game harder. However, even in the more difficult version of this game, night 4 is when it really starts to get difficult, except for one super funny problem. There's a bug in the code that prevents both Rachel and Ray from ever attacking unless the power goes out, which means the cameras are literally useless because Ray will never run to your office, so you can just hide under the desk the entire game and occasionally pull the curtains closed. The only other threat in this night is Pete and Bane, but they both attack the right door. Something funny though is that they can't appear in your right doorway if you're looking at it, so you don't even mean to hide under the desk. You can just look at the fucking doorway and they won't come. Granted, if they do get to your door while you're closing the curtains, you only have about 5 seconds to react and close the door or hide under the desk, but still, holy shit, how the hell is hard mode so goddamn easy? Night 5's phone call has some honestly pretty interesting reveals. It's clear that the message we're hearing was meant to be sent to the boss, who we find out's name is Phil, clearly establishing that the phone guy still has contact with him despite his disappearance. However, it's also clear that the phone guy doesn't know where Phil went. Phone guy mentions doing something else to sabotage the business down the street, referring to Freddy's. He says they've already had one incident, so making another one happen is sure to work, which would lead one to believe that they're suggesting they caused whatever the original incident that happened there was, or that they're just wanting to cause another one. When the idea was shot down for bringing a bad rap to animatronics in general, Phone Guy says that he really messed up this time, which would lead me to believe that he had already chosen to do something. It's at this moment that the Phone Guy mentions that they've got us, the character we play as, quote, tied up in our strings. So that's awesome. Thanks, Guy. I thought we had something special together, but clearly I was just a piece of eye candy for you to oogle at all day. I thought you loved me. Anyways, the Phone Guy asks Phil if he's actually going to give us that promotion we apparently were promised. And he says he'd be willing to make up a lie to tell us to make sure that promotion never happens. And in all honesty, the moment I heard that shit, I would have walked right out of that goddamn building. My feelings are crushed, Guy. I'm a person too, you know. Night 5 still has the problem of both Rachel and Ray not being able to attack you. The bug carrying over to the non-hard mode version of this game as well now, so that's awesome. Even easier. Perfect. Nothing of interest to talk about here except for what happens after you complete the night. After finishing off Night 5, we get a cutscene inside of what I could only assume to be our bedroom, which for some reason has Rachel's posters on the wall. A little weird, bro, but you do you. We hear a knock at our door, and on the other side we get fucking reamed by the thing, only to wake up inside of the office once again. Apparently just being a bad dream, maybe. Or who knows? Maybe even a premonition of what's to come. Ooh, spooky. But that's really all those nights at Rachel's has to offer. A boring, monotonous gameplay loop that's enough to make me want to rather play with my own skin flute with a cheese grater. It, for some reason, helped shape the fan game scene to what it is today. Does the game look great? Yes. Are the designs good? Of course they are. But can I in all honesty say that the game itself is good? No. No, I cannot. But what about the second game? Oh boy, is that a whole nother bag of worms to dive into? Fuck it, this video has been short so far, so let's soothe our minds and talk about Those Nights at Rachel's 2 Reloaded. To start, no, this game, technically speaking, is not official. Oh, wait. Oh, shit. It's actually been endorsed by Nixon? So, okay, fuck, I guess it is canon. This game was not made by Nixon and was posted on April 1st of 2017, originally designed to be just that, an April Fool's joke. But due to Nixon not wanting to officially continue the series, he decided to jokingly make it canonical to the official lore. Just looking at the title screen of Rachel's 2 would lead you to believe it would be a normal FNAF experience, but in fact, it's not a FNAF experience at all. Pressing play, we load into an office where we can actually walk around, but before you can really get a good feel for your surroundings, we pull out the blicky and shoot the fuck out of one of the robots. What the fuck? What the fuck is this? That's right. Rachel's 2 is a horde-based survival shooter game. With waves of enemies approaching your office, you'll have to pop caps in each and every one of their asses. Each character having its own mechanic, with Doug being your everyday basic zombie, Rachel taking 2 shots to kill, Ray being tiny and running at light speed, and the fucking bull taking about 800 bullets to kill. And of course, there are more characters that I never experienced in my playthrough because this game can honestly get pretty damn hard. Would I recommend you play the second game? No, probably not. But if you want a good laugh and just want to have some retarded fun, then I think Those Nights at Rachel's 2 is definitely something you should give a try. Overall, it's very clear Those Nights at Rachel's has forever left an impact on the FNAF genre. And even though I think, generally speaking, it's pretty bad, I can't deny that it is a classic and a fan favorite, and has greatly helped in growing the very community I care so much about today.
Have you ever played a game that was so good you wanted to play it again? Have you ever found a game dev whose games were so finely crafted you wanted to play every one they've ever made? Now, here's a crazy question. Have you ever played a game that was so utterly disappointing, bad, and a waste of time that you'd honestly, and I do mean honestly, would rather play Garten of Banban? Well, I have. I just did, actually, and I need to talk about it. I literally cannot help myself, and I bet you know the game I'm talking about, and maybe you even like it. This video is being made to explain why you shouldn't. The game I'll be talking about today is Five Nights at Candies 2. You might be asking, why are you covering the second game in a series when you haven't even made a video about the first one? Well, I'll be honest with you, the first one is criminally mediocre at best, but if you guys want, I'll cover that one too. I just remembered this second game and remembered how unmemorable it was. So let's dive right into the most boring and mind-numbing Five Nights at Freddy's game ever made. Five Nights at Candies 2 begins with us getting a text message from someone. That someone is not named, but we're told that we lost a bet, and because of that, we'll have to spend 5 nights in an abandoned factory again. Note that this person says, again, which would lead one to believe that we've had to spend 5 nights here before. And let me tell you, when there are killer animatronics somewhere, you survive 5 nights there, and then agree to a bet where the loser has to go there again, I guarantee you're not taking that bet and you're not going there again. So I have a theory about our player. They're brain dead. That has to be it, because no one else on Earth would be that stupid. Anyways, then we get slingshotted into the first night, and that means I'm plagued with the burden of telling you about the worst part of this game: playing the game. Instead of being in an office, we're in the middle of a hallway. Why? Because we're the king of making bad decisions. There are several rooms with only one entrance, but we instead choose to sit in the one room in the building that has about 6 fucking entrances, so our chances of living are as small as possible. It's also a good idea to mention that this hallway we're in is darker than the abyss, so seeing is impossible, but don't worry. We came prepared with the worst possible form of light that we could possibly think of. An old-ass camera that has a flash. Again, remember, we've been here before, for 5 nights, and we came back with a terrible form of lighting even knowing how fucking dark it is. Brain dead. I will continue to emphasize this. Brain dead. Do we have a camera system? I hear you asking. Of course we do. Is it good? I hear you asking. Not even a little bit. Looking at the camera, you'll see a bunch of phone symbols. For some reason, almost every room in this building has a phone in it. Now remember that this building is supposed to be a factory. Why would there be a phone in every room in a factory? Have you ever worked in a factory? Let me tell you, factories are some of the loudest buildings on Earth. I would say it'd probably be quieter to work at a nuclear testing ground than it would be to work in a factory. On top of that, because of how loud factories are, most will have you wearing earplugs, so I guarantee you that nobody who's working in this factory would ever in a billion years be able to hear any of these phones ringing. But let's stop being literal and talk about why they're here. Similar to Five Nights at Freddy's 2, there are no doors. So how do you keep the animatronics from fingering your butthole? Well, we use the phones to lure them around the building, just like the Balloon Boy laugh from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. The key difference between this system and the system from FNAF 3 is, where the laughing system from FNAF 3 is good, the phone system from Five Nights at Candies 2 fucking isn't. Let me explain. So in FNAF 3, you can use the Balloon Boy laugh in whatever room you want, and Springtrap will move to that room as long as he's in a room that is adjacent to it. Makes sense. In Five Nights at Candies 2, you can use the phone in whatever room you want, but animatronics will only move to it if they're in the main hall where you are, and the reason given is, the only room that they can hear the phone in is the main hall. Please, tell me how that makes any sense at all. Even if an animatronic is directly next to the room you use the phone in, they can't fucking hear it. But if they're in the main hallway and you use a phone in the furthest possible corner of the room 847 meters away, they'll jump on that shit. That makes no sense. Now you might be wondering, what happens when they get to the room of the phone you rang? Good question. They fucking disable it. Great. Now I have a question. Why are they going after the phone? It's a phone. Who cares? In Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the reason Springtrap went after the Balloon Boy call was because it sounded like a child, and Springtrap had pedophobia, unlike Dr. Disrespect. But this is just a phone. What reason do the animatronics have to attack this phone? I actually have a theory about that. Because the phone call ring is the most annoying sound on the face of the planet. Don't believe me? This is what it sounds like. Isn't that the worst? Get ready to hear that for your whole playthrough, because it's the main fucking mechanic of the goddamn game. I still haven't even mentioned what happens on night 1. So to start, there's no phone calls. Thank God. If I had to hear the phone ring even one additional time, I think I'd rip an infant in half. And the only animatronic that's active on night 1 is Cindy. And let me tell you, she's got hips like Judy Hopps, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Cindy is pretty boring overall. She just moves around. Call phones and make her move, mazel tov. But let me tell you, she moves at about Mach 20. You'll call a phone, causing her to leave the hall, and within about 10 seconds, she's already back into the hallway again. So you get to hear the oh so good sound of the phone again and again and again. I love life. Just kidding. No, I don't. This game does something pretty interesting. Once you beat a night, you'll get a minigame. Night 1's minigame has you play as Chester the chimpanzee. In it, you walk around what I assume is the building from the first game. You walk down into the office, grab a key, and unlock what I'm guessing is a back room. However, we don't get to see what's inside before the minigame ends. Cool, I guess. Anyways, let's move on to Night 2. Night 2 introduces a new animatronic, that being Chester. Remember him? You should. I just talked about him quite literally about 15 seconds ago, so I hope you would. Chester has a mechanic more unique than Cindy's, so that's good at least. Chester will start going quite literally apeshit on one of the vents in a random room. Can you guess how to deal with him? Can you? I'll wait. Ding ding ding! We have a winner! You fucking use the fucking phones to fucking scare the fucker away. God, fuck, I can't stand the phones. I'm gonna shart and then I'm gonna piss on it. Fuck, I'm sorry, I need to relax. I've been seeing a psychiatrist, and he says we're making great progress. However, there was this one time his phone rang during a meeting and I ripped the couch in half. So, that set us back a little bit. Anyways, once you use the phone, Chester will run away like a bitch. If you don't use the phone fast enough, he'll climb through the vents and kill you. Very easy mechanic overall, but when mixed with the fact that when a phone is being called, you can't call another one, that's when it starts to get hard. Because you'll send Cindy to another room, and then directly after, Chester will start pounding on a vent in another room. Fuck me. Now I have to wait 30 seconds to use a phone again, and in that time, Chester has already tied me up, looking at me up and down and shit. But once we get through Night 2, we can move on to the post-Night 2 minigame. In this minigame, we play as the Penguin. I looked up his name, and his name is just the Penguin. Very creative, guys. Great work. In this minigame, we're tasked with picking up the remains of Chester and stuffing them into a box. Let's imagine that all of these animatronics are friends for a second, okay? That's super fucked up. Yeah, go pick up your best friend that's been ripped into fucking pieces and just throw him in a box. No funeral, no burial, just toss him in there. I feel bad for the Penguin. First he's got no name, and now he's on crime scene cleanup. Trying our best not to think about it, we move on to Night 3. Night 3 introduces two new animatronics, Candy and the Penguin. Candy is boring as fuck, literally just doing the exact same thing that Cindy does, which makes you wonder, what was even the point? The Penguin, however, does do something pretty interesting. The Penguin can randomly appear on any camera. If you look at him for too long, he will disable your cameras for a while, making you unable to look at them, retroactively making it impossible to call the phones, which is arguably a good thing, because I'd rather put a gun in my mouth than listen to the phone ring again. Now, I'm gonna pause real quick and ask you guys, does this mechanic sound a little familiar to you? Well, that's because it's quite literally just Balloon Boy's mechanic from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, with borderline zero differences. Ah yes, originality, how uncommon you are. But hey, it is better than Candy, to be fair, because the frequency in which I have to repeat myself in this script is making my ears ring. Ring. Hold the fucking phone over. Post Night 3 minigame time. Aren't you excited? You better be excited. In this minigame, we play as Blank. Our task here is to pick up 4 drawings. I would say that's irrelevant, but if you spend as much time as I do looking at and studying FNAF games, you'd know that Blank's purpose is to literally be drawn on by children, so this actually makes a little bit of sense. 3 of the drawings don't really mean dick, but there is one drawing I'd like to draw your attention to, only because it's the only thing in this game that I think is unsettling. A drawing of a sad kid with the text, "Where's Chester?" It's just unsettling because we know what happened to Chester, but this kid doesn't. It's a very small detail, but I have to do my best to find something positive in this dumpster fire of a game. After we collect all 4 drawings, it's time to move on to Night 4. Night 4 literally introduces no new animatronics. So we're just going to talk about the post-Night 4 minigame. I'm going to be honest with you guys because we're friends, pals, homies, some might even say buds. This minigame has no fucking purpose existing. You can tell that the devs just thought, oh fuck, I can't think of another minigame with substance, and then made this minigame. In this minigame, you play as Cindy, and your task is to walk down to the office, grab Candy's tie, and give it to him. That's it. You know, I can tell that this script is going to be shorter than I usually like them to be already, but when you give me 0 content to work with game, it makes it significantly more difficult to lengthen the script out so that the viewers have more fucking content. But I guess I'll just go fuck myself then, and we'll move on to Night 5. Night 5, thankfully, introduces a new animatronic for me to complain about, Blank. Technically, Blank can come in Night 4, it's just super unlikely, but we're not going to talk about that. Can you guys guess what Blank does? If you guessed the exact same fucking thing that Candy and Cindy do, you're fucking right. Why even try to make a mechanic that's interesting when you could just Control-C, Control-V code, right? That's so awesome! But as far as I can tell, Blank does at least do something different from Candy and Cindy. If you call the phone that's in the room he's in, he will disable it almost instantly, and that's about all that's different. Boring ass, dumbass, bitch, robot, bitch. You know, I really honestly wish I had more to talk about when it came to this game, but of course, it's a disappointment of a game, so I really don't. But we can talk about the post-Night 5 minigame. The post-Night 5 minigame actually has a lot of substance to it, so I thankfully actually have something to talk about. In this minigame, you play as Candy, and your goal is pretty unclear. As you wander around the building, you stumble into a room where you see police officers guarding the doors, with police lights flashing on the outside of the building. As you walk into the office, you see the corpse of what appears to be another police officer, and deep laughing can begin to be heard. As you continue to walk around the building, you'll notice that the door that Chester unlocked in the first minigame is now open. As you go to walk up to the door, 3 police officers bust the door down and tase the fuck out of Candy's plump ass. Isn't it crazy that this minigame has been more fun than the entirety of the rest of the game combined? God, you know, this should have been the game with absolutely nothing else, and I probably would have had more nice things to say about it. But let's move on to Night 6, because it's FNAF, so of course the title of the game is a lie. Night 6 removes every single animatronic we've seen so far, but adds 2 new ones, the rat and the cat. I'm sorry, did I say adds? I meant replacements, because these 2 animatronics literally add nothing new to the game. Both characters act the same way Candy and Cindy do, but the cat also has Chester's ability to pound on the vent, and the rat has the penguin's ability of forcing your cameras to reboot if you look at him for too long. Is this night good? Literally no. Is it unique? Literally no. Did I have a good time playing it? Literally no. Did I have a good time playing this game at all? Literally no. Am I having a good time writing this script? Kinda, I guess. There's only so much you can write about when the dev of the game shits in their hand and gives it to you with a sticky note attached that reads 5 Nights at Candies 2. But whatever. Post-Night 6 minigame time, I suppose. The Post-Night 6 minigame also has a lot to talk about. Hilariously more to talk about than the actual base game. This minigame starts with us playing as Old Candy, as we follow a Shadow Candy around the building. He leads us to an open door with a worker inside. As we approach this worker, he turns around and is rightfully frightened and tases the fuck out of us. Usually that's where these minigames would end, but we actually get to continue. Next, we're back in the body of Blank, with the task of picking up a bunch of pictures again, with the final picture being a drawing of Shadow Candy, and as the picture leaves our screen, we see Shadow Candy behind us and then he clanks Blank's cheeks. Bars. However, we're still not done playing this minigame. Next, we're back playing as Old Candy and again are tasked with following Shadow Candy around the building. We walk past a man in a black vest who looks very upset, and Shadow Candy leads us to the office where we find a crying child. As we walk up to the crying child, they get up and stop crying and prance out of the room all happy and shit. Continuing to follow Shadow Candy, he leads us back to the man in the black vest we saw earlier to find him grabbing the child we found by the head, based, and the child is crying. We walk up to the man and presumably bust it down freaky style with him and split him in half like a log. And that's the end of this minigame. I honestly appreciate this game doing something that at least feels like progress and understanding. However, that's where my critiques end for this game, because that's the fucking end of the game. Do you feel fucked? I feel fucked. This game just bent me over and fucked me. I spent a few hours playing this game, and what do I get? I get fucked in the ass by Five Nights at Candies 2. No lube, raw, in the ass, fucked. I am not even remotely satisfied with this game. It did nothing good at all to make me appreciate it. Sure, it has its two interesting moments in the final two minigames, and sure, it has the secret animatronic that's kind of a baddie, but that's not even close enough to make me like it. Even looking at the time at which it came out, coming off the back of Five Nights at Candies, one of the best FNAF fan games at that time, it still wasn't even good. It was just a shitty Five Nights at Freddy's 3 with a boring ass gameplay loop. Now, I'm not a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's 3 either. I think overall it's a pretty bad game, but it was original. This dog shit did what that dog shit did, but even more dog shit. I would rather put a toothpick under my toenail and kick a wall. I would rather play Moozy again. I would rather peel my own skin off and pour salt on it. I would rather watch old Markiplier and try not to cringe at how eccentric he was. This game had so much it could have done, and for some reason it just didn't. It had so many animatronics to work with, which could open the door to so many unique mechanics, but instead it chose to have all of them do the same thing, which just makes for an experience that is so catastrophically boring. The gameplay felt useless, the minigames felt useless, and the fucking phone call makes me want to strangle a baby deer.
Infamous FNAF fan games. I'm sure just saying that has already caused a few games to pop into mind. One Night at Flumpty's, Five Nights at Candies, The Joy of Creation, Those Nights at Rachel's, and for some, another franchise comes to mind. One whose name is incredibly ironic, a game whose name is an emotion that everyone wishes to have, although the game causes nothing but the opposite. A game I truly cannot fathom the popularity of. Rest assured, the FNAF fan game series we're covering today is bad. Very, very bad. Join me today as I dive into Jolly, the FNAF fan game series that broke me. Strap in, because this is the longest video I have ever made. Opening into the first cutscene, we're greeted by the newspaper, reading that restaurants have been closing everywhere due to the new Circus Babies Pizza World. Tying this game into the official FNAF lore, the owner of Jolly Entertainment claims he will be competing with Circus Babies. And let me tell you, this fuck-ass restaurant doesn't stand a goddamn chance. Anyways, moving on to gameplay. Jolly seemed to think it'd be an amazing idea to take all of the good mechanics from Five Nights at Freddy's and say, yeah, I could make this worse. To start, we have a large window and one door. You'll notice that each are powered by a typical light switch, which is probably one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. On top of our cameras, we have a maintenance panel which gives us access to our generator. Basically, we have 100% power, like normal, and the generator has 150% power. So if our power gets low, we can use the generator's power to charge our power through this maintenance panel. This mechanic seems a little useless to me, honestly. Why not just give us more power or make our power last longer? Maybe just to give us another thing to distract us? I'm not totally sure. Your camera system is pretty bare bones. Jolly was made a long time ago. It's in the realm of series like Five Nights at Candies in terms of age, so to an extent, I can forgive this game for being so dated. But rest assured, that doesn't mean I'm going to hold back on ripping it to shreds. Anyways, the cameras. I will give this game credit where it's due. The camera system actually has something I think is pretty cool. This game has 2 floors in the restaurant, with an elevator used to move from floor to floor. I'm not seeing any sight of stairs either, which I'm pretty sure is an OSHA violation just waiting to happen. You can see the camera of this elevator, and on it you can actually cause the elevator to change floors. Meaning that, if an animatronic rides the elevator up to your floor, you can quickly send the elevator back down, causing them to need to use another movement opportunity to move it back up. But don't get too excited about this mechanic. as it is completely obsolete when I start talking about how stupidly fucking hard this game is for no reason whatsoever. So let's talk about night 1, which starts off strong by introducing 2 characters, Tweety and George. Tweety uses the elevator to get to your office. If you watch my full playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black, you'll be able to see me get plenty of enjoyment sending her stupid ass back downstairs every time she tried to come up to my floor. Oh, she didn't like that. She didn't like that I switched the elevator at all. Once she arrives at your office, you'll be able to see her in your window. Now pause. I want you to take a long look at this office. Notice how the window is literally nowhere near the fucking door? Yeah? So let me ask you, if you saw an animatronic in this window, would you ever, in a million years, think you need to close the door right when you see them? No? Well, you see, that's exactly what I thought too. But guess what, retard? You're completely wrong. For some reason, God knows why, the developer decided that this window was going to act like the windows from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, except neglecting the fact that the only reason the windows from FNAF 1 worked was because the window was directly next to the door, so it felt like there was no time before the character would arrive in your office. This game, that doesn't work, because you've placed the door a whole fucking football field in distance away from the window, so I'd have zero reason to think the animatronic currently staring at me would blow out my butthole like a Nachos Bel Grande. This is dumb, this is bad. Really fucking bad. But whatever, really. Once you eventually figure out that's how this mechanic works, it should be pretty simple, right? Just close the door and wait for them to go away. Well, yes, exactly. Close the door and wait approximately, I don't know, 400 years. Because the rate at which these stupid robots move away from your door is pretty much zero. It'd probably be faster to just sit in one spot and wait to die, honestly. But whatever, eventually they'll leave and then you're free to open your door. Except, psych moron, since this one took so long to leave, another robot is at your window again. Yay! And who's at your window? Well, probably George. George? How'd you get here? George moves through your camera vents. You'll notice on the vent cams that you'll be able to seal the vent to prevent the animatronics from moving through them. But those probably don't work as you'd expect them to. Let's migrate for a second and talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 3. In that game, when Springtrap enters your vent, you can seal it off, which in that instance, Springtrap's neurons start firing and send a message to the body saying, hey, let's get out of this vent. Clearly, we're unable to continue moving forward. Not in Jolly. There are no neurons to fire in these robots' heads. In their mind, they're just thinking, vent was open minute ago. Why no vent open now? I wait until vent open again, then I continue move. Yeah, that's right. The animatronics will never leave the vents after you seal them, so sealing them really acts more like a stalling system, except closing the vents drains your power, and because of that, it makes closing your vents literally fucking pointless. So basically, if you haven't been paying attention thus far, George crawls through your vents no matter what you do and eats your balls like a sirloin steak. Fantastic. It wouldn't be a FNAF game without a music box-like mechanic, now would it? Of course not. And rest assured, this game has one too, using a character by the name of Antoinette. Antoinette appears on camera 11 tied up in some wires. You'll see a graphic on this camera referencing 4 wires holding Antoinette in place. Every once in a while, one of these wires holding him back will break and you'll have to repair it, which takes around, 900 decades. If all of the wires break, he'll eat your butt. You'll realize, especially on later nights, that a wire is broken on this guy pretty much constantly, so you'll barely have any time to peel your eyes away from the cameras to work on other things. But realistically, I personally had no problems dealing with Antoinette throughout my playthrough, which by the way, you can check out on my second channel, Dxtr Black. That's 2 plugs and we're just getting started. This is a long video, so sit your ass down. It also wouldn't be a game I fucking hate without post-night minigames that serve no purpose other than to be annoying. So let's talk about them. The post-night 1 minigame has you play as Jolly. All you have to do is walk into parts and service where you watch Antoinette go on an elevator and the minigame ends. That's it. Wasn't that just awful? Well, get ready because they're only going to get worse from here. Night 2. What new ass does this bring out? Well, do you remember George? The guy I talked about like 2 minutes ago? Well, night 2 brings on Maxie. Why did I bring up George? Well, because Maxie is literally just George. She moves into the vent, then to your window. The only difference? Maxie is more aggressive than George is, and George is already pretty damn aggressive, so hearing that was amazing news for me. You know, I think I'd rather grind my ass on a cheese grater than worry about this stupid game that I hate so much. Night 2 post-night minigame time! In this minigame, we play as Jolly again. You, once again, walk into the parts and service room and see Antoinette tied up in wires. At the bottom of the screen, text appears stating, "It's okay." After that, you walk out of the room and you're attacked by an employee and the minigame ends. Riveting gameplay, what can I say? Night 3 brings on the big boy himself, Jolly. And I mean big boy. This dude is round as fuck. You push this guy over and his ass is gonna roll for a long time. He is incredibly boring, much like this entire game. He goes to the elevator and then to your window. He's literally just Tweety, but less aggressive, and seems to sit at your door for about 4 times as long, which is great because Tweety already sits there for ages. Something interesting about Jolly though, if you don't close the door in time, instead of killing you, he'll stand in your doorway looking at you, blocking you from closing the door using his astronomically sized belly. This motherfucker uses the asteroid belt to keep his pants up. Fat piece of shit robot. Night 3's post-night minigame. Is it fun? No. In this one, you play as Jolly. Surprise, surprise. A bunch of kids are standing around, so we quickly vacate the area because the only thing that scares me more than women are children. I hate children. We have to go to the kitchen. Inside, we see the employee from the last minigame who fucked our shit up. Except this time, he just fucks our shit up again. Aren't you getting so much lore and useful information from these minigames? What? You're not? Well, I can't say I'm surprised because these minigames are more useless than a white crayon. Nights 4 and 5 literally add nothing new to the central gameplay loop, so let's just talk about their post-night minigames. Night 4's minigame has you play as Tweety. Just kidding, you play as Jolly. You once again have to go to the kitchen. This time, the employee is preparing a meal. Once you move to the party room where you started, you get your shit rocked by the employee. Why? I have no idea. I guess this guy just hates us. Why he doesn't just destroy us is beyond me if we're causing him this much grief. Night 5's post-night minigame is actually a bit different. We play in the perspective of Jolly, seemingly dismantled in the kitchen. After looking around and being useless for a bit, text appears at the top of the screen that states, "Look at what you've done." And the minigame comes to an end. Something different, finally. Took long enough. But what does this tell us? Well, a whole lot of nothing, really. There's clearly a story being told somewhere here, but I can't for the life of me figure out what it is quite yet. Night 6 is nothing new, just hard as fuck. Really, the strategy in this game boils down to flash the light, wait, flash the light, wait, fix Antoinette when needed, and close the door when needed. Incredibly boring, not fun, a lot of RNG required because all the characters decide they want to forget how to walk once they reach our fucking window. But that's really all Jolly 1 has to offer. This game is incredibly fucking hard. I really didn't spend a lot of time talking about how difficult it is, but dear God, it is really unenjoyable to play. You can see my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. But now, let's move from a game that's way too hard to a game that's way too easy. Jolly 2. That's right, baby. Everybody give cheers for video game balancing. Hip hip. Jolly 2 takes place on a cargo ship, where the animatronics are being moved to a different location. For some reason, we're also here, guarding the cargo. From what? Pirates? I have no fucking idea. This is such an odd plot point. I actually think it's kinda cool. Too bad the rest of the game is a snooze fest though. Let's talk about it. Night 1 introduces classic George and Bonnie. That's right. For some reason, this game is mixing in its own characters with the official FNAF characters. It's like a fan fiction, but in game form. And awful. Both in your cameras and on your left and right doors, you'll find a shock button. This button can be used to shock the animatronics. Can you believe it? When you shock an animatronic, it will cause them to go into a system reboot. Who really cares what it does? It makes them piss off, so use it when it makes sense. One extra thing to note is that the shock on the cameras is less effective than the ones at your doors, so the camera shock is really used to stall animatronics from reaching your doors, since the shocks on your doors have a very long cooldown time. Want to hear something really cool? Well, the cooldown wasn't enough to keep this game interesting. So what was added to keep the game just as uninteresting and even more fucking annoying as possible was the addition of 4 leaky pipes found behind you. Every once in a while, one of these pipes will start leaking gas. When the gas is leaking, you can't use your shocks. Wanna guess why? Because the gas will cause the shock to travel to you. That literally does not make any fucking sense at all. While yes, gas can conduct electricity, given the wide space of moving electrons, the power that travels through the gas would be nowhere near powerful enough to cause any meaningful harm to us. But screw it. Whatever, sure. Let's imagine that does make sense. When one of these pipes is leaking, all you have to do is turn around and click it. That's it. Jesus Christ. You might as well have just not even bothered adding this mechanic because it can be solved in 2 seconds. Did not make this game more interesting at all. Anyways, the animatronics, how about those guys? Oh yeah, George and Bonnie. George moves around the cameras, meanders into your vents, which thankfully this time don't have a useless ceiling mechanic, and then reaches your left door. When he's there, shock that bitch. Easy. Bonnie is much the same, except he attacks your right door instead. Very boring, I don't care. Oh wait, wanna hear something super crazy, fun, and silly? You can't see the animatronics when they're at your door. Can you hear them? No! What you have to do is constantly be watching the cameras, which is something I actually think this game does really well. It forces you to watch the cameras without a stupid fucking music box mechanic. Characters never move backwards in Jolly 2, so if a character is at a corner door camera one moment and then the next they're not, that means they're at your door and you need to shock them. Don't think I'm going to start gushing over this game. This watching cameras mechanic was done well. The rest of everything else ever was not. Night 2 introduces Chica. She's actually pretty interesting, except the funny part is that I just lied, because she's actually not interesting in the slightest. All she does is travel to the middle of the map and then attack your left door like George. This is some I got the right answer but used the wrong formula animatronic.
How the fuck did you get that answer? No, it's the right answer, but you didn't use my method, you little fucking shit. I'll tell you what you've done. Essentially, you've just shit in my fucking mouth. Do you like shitting in people's mouths, you little freak?
Oh hey, I should probably mention the post-night plush trap style minigame, shouldn't I? After each night, you'll be able to play a minigame called Time to Sleep with Foxy, which, by the way, is the only time he makes an appearance in this game. Time to Sleep consists of you attempting to take a nap in the cargo ship, but Foxy thinks it would be really funny to tickle your feet and make you squeal. While you sit on your bed, your sleep meter will increase. However, you'll be able to see 2 entrances to your room where Foxy can attack. If you listen closely, you'll be able to hear him moving on either side. When you do, you'll have to go over to that door and flash your light at him. Note, when you're not on your bed, your sleep meter decreases, and Foxy is pretty damn aggressive, so have fun never making progress in your entire life. If you manage to beat the minigame in time, you get to skip the first 2 hours of the next night, and this is crucial. Not because the nights are hard, but because they're so incredibly fucking boring I'd rather put a gun in my mouth than play them ever again. Night 3 brings along Freddy. Spoiler alert, he's boring. Kind of. He at least does something a little different. Rather than attack one of your doors, he can attack either. It's still the same method of stopping him, but he can just choose to attack either door, so I guess that's progress into being interesting land. Nothing else much more to note here, pretty boring overall. I will say it's on this night that using your camera shock to stall the characters starts to become useful, so I guess that's something. Night 4 introduces the man, the myth, the literal wrecking ball of a robot, classic Jolly.
Brother, this guy stinks!
Jolly does something crazy that actually makes this game pretty fun. Psych, moron, I fucking lied. All he does is attack your right door exactly like every other animatronic does. Somehow, the main character of the game is less interesting than one of the others, which is just crazy to me that you could even make that happen. Nights 5 and 6 are just harder versions of Night 4 with nothing changing. Oh, and also, they're still not very hard at all, so that's cool. Well, I guess all that's left to talk about are the post-night minigames. Dexter, haven't you already talked about Time to Sleep? Well, yes, I have. However, this game also added in stupid boring ass shit 8-bit minigames just like the first game, except somehow managed to make them even more boring. Let's talk about them. Night 1's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom, where in this universe you would presumably kill them rather than in the back room like in the actual game. Why this detail is changed even though they're adding their story to the original is beyond me. Night 2's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom. Night 3's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom. Night 4's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom. Are you getting sick of this yet? Night 5's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into a bathroom. Wasn't this segment totally worth your time? No? Well, you watched it anyways. So basically, if your brain doesn't work, Afton killed the kids. Wow, shocker. I would have never been able to figure that out without your expert opinion game. Thank you. There is a true ending in this game, however. If you die on night 5, 6, or go to the extras menu and click a small jolly sprite in the corner, you'll be brought to a minigame exactly like Sister Location, where you have to strategically throw burgers into the mouths of some fat-ass kids. After that, you can collect a bonus hamburger and go to the second floor of the minigame and stand on an invisible platform. After that, jump to the right side of the screen and you'll be teleported to a new minigame. In this new minigame, you'll find a girl in a pink shirt crying like a bitch. Once she sees Jolly, she hugs him, but Afton quickly grabs her and we cut to a cutscene where we're in front of an arcade machine slowly panning out, and the game ends, giving you the true ending. What have I gathered from this? Well, in one of the post-night minigames, we see that it's Bring Your Daughter to Work Day, which I'm pretty sure has never been an event that has ever taken place at a restaurant in history. But I'm gonna take a solid guess that the girl that hugged Jolly in the final minigame was the daughter of the security guard we've been playing as. This game is really pulling at my heartstrings, guys. But that's all Jolly 2 has to offer. This game is somehow marginally worse than the first, which I think deserves a medal because after playing the first game, I didn't think that was possible. Jolly 2 is so incredibly easy that you could probably beat it blindfolded. None of the mechanics are engaging in any way, and the story in no way makes up for the gameplay's shortcomings. Overall, it's a very terrible game that I don't think you should ever play in a million years. Let's move on to the final game in the series, which unfortunately for me, is broken up into 2 chapters, so it's borderline 2 more games I have to cover, and I'm not excited at all, because it's these 2 games that really began to break me. Jolly 3 Chapter 1, aka Where the Rage Begins. How do I even begin? Well, I suppose I should start at the beginning. That would probably make the most sense. The game begins with a cutscene of a car driving to a factory and our player running inside. With a zoom in on a broken Jolly animatronic, his eyes light up, letting us know he's ready to open up a can of whoop ass on us. In this game, our goal is to go into an abandoned Jolly factory and grab some artifacts, which makes it sound like this is about to be like Indiana Jones. However, while those movies are great, this game is not. Loading into this game's control room, which acts as the office, I'm immediately greeted to the shitty fucking smell of Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location. What do I mean by that? Well, open your eyes and take a look at this office. Does this not look at all slightly familiar to you? If it doesn't, then you're stupid or have never seen Sister Location before, because this office is pretty much identical to the control room from Sister Location, with 2 large windows on each side of us that can be lit up via a light button and an exit directly in front of us. In Sister Location, it was a vent. In this game, it's a giant door. Flashing our lights, on the left we can see Tweety, and on the right we can see either Maxie or George. I'm pretty sure this is Maxie, since I'm pretty sure the animatronic that sits next to Jolly on the cameras is George, but it could be the other way around. Also in the office is a big lever. Pulling it will release gas from the pipes on the ceiling. That gas fries animatronics. Oh boy, can you take a guess where this is going? That's right, this game is about to mix elements of Sister Location, which is terrible, and the stand in your office mechanic from Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is also pretty terrible. We're already set up for a great time. But I can't go any further without complaining about one of the worst things to ever come out of any game, literally ever, designed by anyone: the Click Team mouse. More specifically, the Sister Location Click Team mouse. If you've ever played Sister Location, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you've only ever seen people play this game and Sister Location, let me fill you in on the horrible experience that it is. Click Team Fusion, the engine used to create most FNAF fan games and every official FNAF game up until Ultimate Custom Night, has a few interesting quirks that almost every game that uses them suffers from. The main problem is in games like Five Nights at Freddy's games that try to fake a 3D effect by having you look back and forth. A lot of the time, especially in Sister Location, you'll be able to see weird distortions on the side of the screen, making the entire game look like it's shaped like a fucking cylinder. And because of this, the mouse has a pretty significant and horrendous issue. While you look from side to side in the office, since we're not actually in a 3D space and what we're looking at is actually just a 2D image being warped to appear 3D, you'll notice that as the mouse hits the exact center of the screen, it looks like the mouse gets locked on the X-axis. And as soon as the screen reaches the end of the 2D image, it looks like the mouse unlocks and can continue to move freely. While I say the mouse is, quote, locked, it actually really isn't. It's moving just as freely as it would when it's on the sides of the screen. But because we're faking a 3D environment in an engine that can't natively do 3D, it leads to this awkward and janky mouse movement that not only looks weird, but feels even weirder. I cannot fucking stand this mouse. I hated Sister Location for it, and I hate Jolly for it even more, because this game is already just hot dog shit ass as it is. But anyways, back to actually talking about the gameplay. Using this gas lever drains our gas. No shit. Where else were you thinking it went? In our cameras, we can open up a special menu, and in this menu, we can refill this gas supply. Where is the gas coming from? Fuck you, that's where. Also on the cameras, you'll see a fan meter. Each camera has its own fan. If the fan ever breaks, which trust me, they will be doing very frequently, your vision will begin to go dark and you will die unless you fix them. Fixing them is easy. There's actually a repair fan button right on each camera. But how do you tell which camera's fan is broken when there's an error? I'm sure you could take a pretty solid guess, and you'd probably be right. You just have to check every single fucking camera until you find the right one. And this will be incredibly annoying due to a character I'll talk about in a minute, but that character is not active on night 1. So who is? There are only 3 characters active on night 1. 3 may sound like a lot for a first night, but one of them is kind of different, so we'll cover him first. In case you have forgotten, Jolly has injected itself into the official game's lore, so all of the original FNAF animatronics are here again, just like in Jolly 2. Metal Foxy is active on night 1. Why are the FNAF characters called metal? I don't really know. Were they not metal before? I have no clue. If at any point one of your camera fans completely breaks, Foxy will appear in the darkness and kill you. That's all he does. I don't know why Jolly hates giving Foxy actual in-night mechanics, but whatever. One character I really don't ever have to worry about, and I actually never even saw because I'm just so goddamn good at gaming. Which, by the way, you can see on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Also, fuck it, while I'm shilling the Black channel, go subscribe to my third channel, Dxtr Blue, too. You've made it this far in the video, so you must be enjoying my rambling at least a little bit, and I do a bunch of that over on Dxtr Blue. Over there, I play any games that aren't Five Nights at Freddy's related, so I encourage you to go check it out. Thanks. Back to the cesspool. Another character introduced on this night is Withered Tweety. Withered Tweety is as boring as a character can get. She pisses around on the cameras and eventually jumps headfirst into your office to give you head. But pause. Think, dumbass. It's a robot. Don't have intercourse with it. It's not even a hot robot, so I don't even know why you'd want to anyways. Once she's in your office, just spray some gas on her and she'll leave. The final character introduced on this night is Withered Maxie. She does literally the exact same thing Tweety does. Meanders around the camera and eventually wanders her way into your office. Same shit, different suit, really. Spray her with some of your liquid hot ass gas and she'll run out of the room holding your nose because you smell like shit. As much as I'd love to just start talking about night 2 in order to get this shit over with as fast as possible, we unfortunately have some Sister Location level bullshit ass minigames to talk about that take place between each night. So let's talk about the first night's fuck ass minigame. The whole point of these minigames is to find these relics that we came to this building looking for. Throughout this game, we're talking to a guy named Theo over the phone, who instead of coming into the building with us to help out, decided he'd rather be a pussy bitch and just call us on the phone the whole time like a clingy girlfriend. Theo leads us into test room 1 and tells us to find a locked safe. After doing so, the security system in the room goes off, and of course, the animatronics are a part of that system. And of course, Tweety is in the room with us. Theo tries to hack the safe but can't, so he sends us a program on our phone that we can use to force the security system off and then use to crack the safe. And for some reason, this program has us play some fuck-ass minigame instead of actually being useful. The goal of this game is to pulse electricity from one door to another, and guide that electricity by using arrows. Every time you click on a square, it creates an arrow, and subsequent clicks turn that arrow 90 degrees. You get it, the idea is simple. So why am I complaining? Well, you see these 20 dots on the left side of your screen? Yeah? You have to do this fuck-ass shit 20 goddamn times. And what makes this take even longer than it already would take? Tweety. Tweety works similarly to Funtime Freddy in his minigame from Sister Location, wherein, while you're trying to play the minigame, Tweety slowly creeps towards you. Every once in a while, you'll have to drop your phone and flash your lights at her over and over again until she goes away. Want to hear the best part? She's voice acted, just like Sister Location, and she only has about 3 fucking lines. And since this minigame takes so long to complete, you can bet your ass we're going to hear each line about 30 times. Doesn't this just sound like a blast? But after you complete all 20 randomly generated puzzles, the security system shuts off and we're free to continue on to night 2. However, before I begin talking about this night, I want to make something clear about the metal animatronics. I do not know exactly what nights they will be introduced for certain. The wiki doesn't inform me, and I don't feel like surfing through hours of Jolly footage just to figure it out. I'll take a guess on the metal animatronics, but keep in mind it might be wrong. The non-official FNAF characters, I do know. Just thought I'd put that out there before we continue. Just kidding! There's still a shitty post-night 8-bit minigame to talk about first. Don't you just hate being alive? In this minigame, we play as a guy named Eric who just got a job at the Jolly restaurant. We're shown around by our boss and told specifically not to go in this room. Afterwards, we go right into that room and get threatened by our boss on the first day. Wonderful. Oh, also, if you walk out of bounds, you can find Antoinette just kind of fucked everywhere on the walls. Anyways, now we can talk about Night 2. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, George and Metal Chica. Let's get George out of the way because he's the most boring. Can you guess how he works? If you said exactly the same as Tweety and Maxie but with a different movement pattern, then you'd be correct. Moves around the cameras, enters your office, spray him with gas, and he pisses off. Repeat. Now we can talk about the most annoying fucking character in this whole game. Earlier, I mentioned that there was a character that in combination with your broken fan problem becomes incredibly infuriating. Metal Chica is that very character. Metal Chica has a random chance to appear on a camera every time you switch cameras or open your camera. She's basically the same as Phantom Balloon Boy from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, except with one key annoying difference. When you see Phantom Balloon Boy in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, all you have to do is either close your camera or switch cameras to avoid his attack. Nope, not Metal Chica, she sucks more than your mom. When you see her on your cameras, your only option is to close the cameras. If you just switch cameras, even though she's disappeared from your sight, she will still jump scare you. This may seem like such a small thing to bitch about. Oh, Dxtr, you're just nitpicking. It's not really that bad. Fuck you. Yes, it is. I guarantee that if you've played FNAF games before, you've grown accustomed to mechanics just like this. And for some reason, this is the only one that doesn't let you just switch cameras to avoid it. So I guarantee you'll have built up some muscle memory that will lead to you just to switch cameras. But guess what, fucker? That doesn't work anymore. No, It's not hard, but do you know how annoying it is to try and break that habit of just switching cameras? It's a bitch. And of course, when there's a broken fan, you have to already quickly swap between cameras at light speed. So you'll already have your muscles set on focusing on switching cameras as fast as possible to find the broken one. Oh, were you focused on watching the repair fan button that you didn't notice Metal Chica was on one of your cameras for a fraction of a fucking second? Well, guess what? Even though you looked at her for no time at all, get jump scared, dickhead. Ivan G, fuck you for this dumbass mechanic right here. However, there is one small redeemable thing about getting jump scared by any metal animatronic that isn't Foxy, and that's that you won't lose the night, just like the phantoms from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Instead, your gas system will just fucking break, and you'll have to repair it on your cameras and then completely refill your gas, which on early nights isn't a big deal. But on later nights, it does become a small problem because of how frequently animatronics will be in your office drooling all over you. Alright, let's talk about the next bullshit post-night scavenger hunt for goodies. On this night, you actually have the option of picking 2 different rooms. You'll eventually have to go to the other one anyways though, so I'll just go over which one I chose on this night. I chose to go into Maxie's room, which is a mistake I will regret for the rest of my life, because this section is fucking brutal. Same deal as last time. Find a safe, trigger the security alarm, do some bullshit on your phone while defending yourself from an animatronic. The difference? Well, the thing you have to do on your phone this time is actually more AIDS than AIDS itself. You will be sent lines of code by Theo to build a program that will shut down the system's firewall so that Theo can hack the security system and the safe, even though he's already done this exact thing once before. The lines of code are case sensitive, and you will only have a certain amount of time to write each line before it refreshes and you have to start all over. So if you're not a fast typer, then I'm sorry, this will be a challenge for you. I have no idea exactly how many lines you need to type, but if I had to guess, it would probably be somewhere in the ballpark of between 20 and 30. This is bullshit. Maxie will be attacking you the whole time. Defending yourself is easy. Just put your phone down and stare at her. The problem? She takes forever to move, and the timer on your phone will still be counting down. This minigame takes so goddamn fucking cocksucking long to complete. I think it took me probably a solid 20 minutes to finish on my first playthrough, which you can find on my second channel, Dxtr Black. I'm so fucking drained, guys, you don't understand what this series is doing to me, and writing this script, having to relive my trauma that I had thought I had put behind me is absolutely brutal. So please, let's just move on. After completing that bullshit, we move on to the Night 2 post-night minigame 8-bit minigame. Did you catch all that? I don't really care. Let me tell you, this minigame isn't a minigame, it's just a cutscene. Eric is bringing his daughter to work with him, and if you remember, this is an event that happened in one of the 8-bit minigames from Jolly 2. Eric walks into the building and very quickly walks back out to tell his daughter Zoe to not enter the building. He doesn't explain why, but begs her to stay in the car before re-entering the building. And that's where the minigame ends. You know, sometimes when I'm playing a game, I think, wow, this gameplay is truly unrivaled by any other game I've ever played. This game is not one of those games, by the way. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters that I hate, Metal Bonnie and Metal Freddy. Metal Freddy is less rage baity, so let's talk about him first. Metal Freddy has a chance to appear in your office at any time. When he does, all you have to do is flip up the camera within 3 seconds and he'll go away. If you don't, he'll jump scare you and fuck your gas system, which again, can be a huge problem on later nights given how often someone will be in your office. Now, let's talk about Metal Bonnie, and why I hated him so fucking much until I discovered the mega ultimate epic ass Metal Bonnie strategy. Metal Bonnie has a chance to appear in your windows every time you flash your light in them. If he appears anytime you do this, he will immediately jump scare you and fuck your gas supply. In a FNAF game where lights are always a crucial mechanic, this may sound brutal, but you haven't heard about my mega ultimate epic ass Metal Bonnie strategy yet. Basically, the way you perform the mega ultimate epic ass Metal Bonnie strategy is just by not flashing your lights ever. Yeah, forgot to mention that this is literally a worthless mechanic, because you never need to see out of these windows to ever progress through the night at all. It took me an embarrassingly long time to figure that out, and you can see how stupid I was in my full playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it and I did it. I knew it was gonna happen. I knew it was a possibility and I did it anyways. Now, after beating that night, we can talk about the lovely night 3 post-night minigame. So which door are we gonna pick here? Let's do this one. Oh, fuck, what the dick? Okay, well, we just got jumped and ganked by Antoinette. What the hell happened? Wait, where are we? Oh shit, we're on a conveyor belt or something. It's at this moment some random bitch starts talking at us.
What brings you here? In this harmonious place of ours?
Apparently, she knows we're stealing, and she's about to F us in the A. The conveyor belt turns on and we start getting moved towards a giant fucking spiky crusher that would never under any circumstance ever be in a factory. We're shown we have to rapidly spam the up and down arrows on our keyboard to stop ourselves from dying. When I tell you that you have to spam fast as fuck, I mean it. However fast you think you can spam, I bet it's just barely fast enough. If you stop for even a fraction of a second, you will launch towards that crusher at fucking Mach 25. And how long do you have to spam for? 2 full minutes. 2 full minutes of pressing 2 keys quite literally as fast as you can without ever slowing in your tempo even once. I'm shaking as fuck. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. I'm shitting myself on this motherfucking conveyor belt right now, bro. Don't make me do it. I'll short my pants on this fucking conveyor belt. On God, I swear to God. Fuck me, I'm gonna die. I'm dead as fuck. Say goodbye to my children. I don't have children. Children suck. Fuck, I'm shitting my pants and pissing them too. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, fuck, I'm gonna die as fuck. I'm shitting myself. It's all down to my shoes and my socks. It's all stuck in my This right here is the worst fucking thing throughout this entire series. It truly does not get worse than this. My arms fucking hurt badly after finishing this section. It actually took me 2 attempts because I couldn't do it for long enough on my first try. This shit sucks, and it sucks hard. People say that Jolly 3 Chapter 1 is the best game in the franchise. They're fucking wrong. This is actually the worst shit I've ever played through in my entire life. I would rather sandpaper my ball sack than ever touch this stupid shit ass section ever again. Now, after that disaster, does the Night 3 post-night minigame, post-minigame, 8-bit minigame do anything that's interesting? Well, yes, actually it does. I was pleasantly surprised at how interesting this minigame actually was. In it, we play as Zoe, who, like a rebel, disobeys her dad and enters the building anyways. It's incredibly dark inside, and after a bit of wandering, she's captured by Eric's boss, who, by the way, was William Afton if you couldn't guess. We're shown Zoe crying in a dark room, and we hear the dialogue between William, who's in the dark back room, and Eric, who's locked outside. Inside of the back room along with Zoe are 4 other children, and we get to hear William argue with Eric as he brutally murders all 4 children, leaving Zoe for last, and forcing Eric to listen and watch as his daughter is murdered in front of his eyes. This is some of the most demented shit I've ever seen, but I actually think it's really cool. Not often in FNAF games do we ever get this close to seeing the terrible acts committed by the villains. And while no, I'm not eager to watch child murder, I think portraying it through these 8-bit minigames is a great way to let the game get serious without actually showing anything horrendously vile. Good job, Jolly. This cutscene is actually really cool, and I can appreciate that. But let's get back to the shit show. Night 4 introduces Jolly himself. Can you guess what he does? Fuck you, he just walks into your office, gas him and he's gone. Yes, every single non-metal character in this game acts exactly the same way. I'm not kidding, they're all identical, just with different patterns for how they get around the map. This is actually such garbage gameplay, I don't really have anything to compare it to. It's just embarrassing and a spit in the face to the player. Want a cherry on top? Jolly is the last character introduced in this game, which means Night 5 is going to be the same repetitive bullshit, but just with some more RNG. Aren't you excited? Now, for the post-night minigame, we finally get to go into the room we tried to get into last night, and the room I chose again could have been chosen on Night 2. If you chose this room, you'd be forced into the maxi room on this night. This one is really easy. All you do is find the safe and type in the code Theo gives you, That's it. No security fuck up, just typing in the code and you're home free. The only thing is that the lights to the room turn off and you get a long ass monologue from the girl who tried to squish you to death in the previous night. It's just the typical, "You don't understand our pain" bullshit you've heard 1,000 times before. When the lights turn back on, you can see the faces of the 4 main animatronics, implying that the soul in Jolly is Zoe, Eric's daughter. Zoe tells us to fix the past so history doesn't repeat itself, and then we're free to continue without any bullshit minigame that makes me want to rip my foreskin into pieces and throw them into the air like confetti. The Night 4 post-night minigame, post-minigame, 8-bit minigame consists of Eric on a boat, which I can only guess is the cargo ship from Jolly 2. We have to dodge guards' flashlights to stay out of their sight, and eventually jump into the back of an unmarked van. Which, by the way, I would never suggest anybody do because that's just a terrible idea. But after that, the minigame is over and we can move on. And please, dear God, let us move on because I'm starting to run out of steam here. Before we begin night 5, Theo calls us and tells us he wants us to grab a fucking animatronic out of the factory and bring it with us. Are you fucking serious right now? You want me to grab one of the fucking murder robots? Are you out of your fucking mind? I think you're crazy. Eat my ass. I'm gonna do it anyways though, so I guess let's just get through the 5th night. I'm not gonna bore you by talking about it because again, it's just a more RNG bullshit version of night 4, so let's not waste any time and talk about what happens after you beat it. After completing night 5, we head back to the Octagon and get a call from Theo. He thinks there might be an unactivated animatronic somewhere deeper in the factory. He apologizes and said that he knows we're tired, but to think about all of the money and recognition we'll get if we can pull this off. This seems like the most classic case of manipulation I've ever seen. But even knowing that, let's continue to fall for it every single time anyways. It's what happens in every single relationship, right? And hey, if we've all made it through one of those, what's stopping us from doing it one more time in Jolly? But this is where Jolly 3 Chapter 1 ends, with us heading deeper into the factory on the hunt for an animatronic to take back with us. Will this end up working out for us? We'll find out next week in the next Dxtr White video. No, I'm just kidding. We're finishing this up now. All right, let's wrap this shit up, huh? Jolly 3 Chapter 2 continues directly after Chapter 1. Who would have thought? We travel down an elevator into the Jolly Entertainment underground facility in search of a deactivated animatronic. Theo marks a spot on our map, and we actually get to travel around the building much like the movement system in A Shadow Over Freddy's, which by the way is a game I've covered on this channel on Dxtr White. You should watch that video after you watch this one. And fuck it, subscribe to Dxtr Black and Dxtr Blue because this video is sucking my soul out of my body right now. Anyways, after arriving at a door, we scan a key card we have and a robot tells us that we don't have access and to quote, return to our quarters in turn. This audibly confuses Theo and reveals that we are playing as someone who has previously worked for Jolly Entertainment. And if I had to guess who, my money would be on Eric being our main character throughout the games. After a bit more exploring, we enter a security office and a tape begins to play from the CEO of Jolly Entertainment, teaching us how to be night guards. We're told that we'll be put to the test before getting the job, and that he's placed 2 deadly robots in the building to defend ourselves from. Really? This is how you test your interns? Fuck, I see why we quit. But whatever. Instead of letting him explain it, I'm going to explain it because I'm the YouTuber, and it would seem lazy if I just played the phone call out in its entirety, no matter how badly I want to do that so that I don't have to write about this fuck-ass game any longer. Let's get the biggest elephant out of the room, the camera system. This camera system is like nothing I've ever seen in a FNAF game ever, and I'm gonna be honest, I actually really like it. It took me a bit to get used to it, but it's actually pretty cool. The cameras are split up into 4 quarters. Clicking on any of them will zoom in and give you a normal looking FNAF camera map, but with only 3 to 4 buttons on each. Meaning if you want to check on another camera, you have to exit the quarter you're in and select another one. I feel like this makes the pressure of going through the cameras just a bit more interesting and tense, and I think that's something these games have been missing, so good job, Jolly. Anyways, there are only 2 animatronics that can actually end your night in this entire game, and go figure, they're both active on night 1. These characters are Jolly and George. You'll notice in this game that Jolly has taken his head off and a skinned human head can be seen in its place. Just something Sigma I thought I'd bring up, but yes, this is Jolly. Both characters act the same way, just attacking different doors in your office. Once they get to your office, you'll have to jam their signal. Fun fact, you can tell George is at your office by his glowing eyes like he's straight out of Five Nights at Candies, so dealing with him is super easy. Jolly, however, is a bit of a tricky one. You cannot see his eyes at the door. So how do you know he's there? Now's a good time to talk about the maintenance panel located behind you. If you turn around, you'll find this panel, and it has 3 tabs located on it. Let's talk about the jammer tab first since I've already mentioned it. Going to the jammer tab, you'll be able to activate the jammer. Damn, did you need a PhD to figure that one out, fuckface? When Jolly or George is at your door, you have to use the jammer to make them go away. But then the jammer has to recharge, which takes a pretty long damn time. If you ever use the jammer when nobody is at your door, the cooldown will last even longer, so really make sure you know where everyone is. I mentioned not being able to see Jolly at your door. Well, first of all, watching your cameras is important, so that'd probably help. Keeping your eyes on George isn't a big deal because you can see him, but Jolly is someone you're going to want to watch. He actually has 2 paths to your left door. The long way, aka the way you want him to go, and the short way, aka the way you don't want him to go. I'm sure you can guess why. Ding ding ding! Because of the jammer cooldown! Good job! Here, you get a cookie. Anyways, you can always double check where both George and Jolly are by using the radar tab on your maintenance panel. I'm sure you can guess what it does. It pings both of their locations on the map. This way you can tell for sure that Jolly is at your door if context clues on the camera aren't enough for you. However, every time you use the radar there is an incredibly long cooldown, so only use it when you really can't find Jolly. But woohoo! You beat the night and we get to move on to the post-night 1 minigame, which by the way are way better than the post-night minigames from chapter 1. You'll be sat in front of a computer. You're tasked with decrypting 10 files each night, which each take a decent amount of time. However, while you're doing this, you'll be being attacked by Rusty Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Their mechanics are very easy. Every once in a while, you'll hear the sound of a door opening. When you hear it, you'll need to quickly turn around. You'll easily be able to tell which door has been opened, and you need to run over to that door and listen for breathing, just like Five Nights at Freddy's 4. If you hear breathing, you need to flash your light to scare the animatronic away and then lock the door. If you don't hear breathing, then all you need to do is lock the door without flashing your light. Then go back to decrypting. Decrypt all the files and you're home free. All of the animatronics act the same, by the way, so I'm not covering each of them here. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, Shadow Tweety and Shadow Maxie. Shadow Maxie is not ass, so let's talk about her first. She is literally exactly the same as Metal Chica from chapter 1, spawning on a camera and fucking you up if you don't put the camera down, except she acts much like a shadow puppet from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, where she'll fuck up your vision and stun you for a while if she jump scares you. So definitely don't let that happen or you will probably die. Shadow Tweety, on the other hand, is a dick. She will slowly start building herself in your office the longer you look forward. Turning around will make her slowly deconstruct. If she ever finishes building herself, she'll jump scare you and cause a ventilation error. Oh wait, shit, I didn't talk about errors. Just like Five Nights at Freddy's 3, you have 3 errors: ventilation, camera, and AC, all of which can happen at complete random, and you'll have to waste a bunch of time repairing them on your maintenance panel. Choosing not to fix any of them can obviously lead to some major issues, so how about you just do it, you little bitch? But that's really about it. Complete the night and you move on to the decryption minigame again, and then back to the night section. No new characters are ever added, it's just harder and harder every time. Same thing goes for the decryption minigame, so there's really not much more to talk about until the end of the 5th night. After completing the 5th night, we get a short cutscene letting us know we have passed the test and we can work here full time, which also explains why we have a keycard in the first place. Theo gives us a call and tells us that the oxygen system in the building has been tampered with. He gives us coordinates to the control room and we have to book it through the building to fix it. It's at this time I get to tell you about a bunch of fucking bullshit. This time, while roaming around the building, George is active and moving around too. And getting around him is the most fucked bullshit on the face of the earth. I literally don't know how to describe how to beat him because I really don't even know what I did. It seems like every single possible movement ends in a death. You have this hold your breath mechanic you're supposed to use, but there is no visual cue to let you know when you're safe to pass him. What you're supposed to do is hold your breath and wait, then exhale and walk past him. You might think, oh, hold your breath until he leaves, but he never leaves. He just stands there, menacingly, staring you down no matter what you do. If you don't hold your breath for just the right amount of time with literally no sign as to how long that's supposed to be, you're fucked and you have to listen to bitch-ass Theo's cutscene again. This took me a stupid amount of time to achieve, and it's honestly the most unenjoyable part of this chapter. But what happens if you get to the control room? Well, you get the misfortune of playing the most brutal and unforgiving night section this series has ever designed. The goal is to stabilize 10 rooms in the facility, but while this is happening, you're getting fucked by George and Jolly. In this office is a window and a door, just like the first Jolly game. You will have to check the light, and if someone is there, close the door until they leave. But here's the catch, you have a power system, and a power system that goes down so incredibly quickly it isn't even funny. When I tell you that you have to play this night perfectly, I'm not exaggerating. Checking the light is a bad idea. Instead, you should listen for sound cues to let you know a character has arrived. When you hear the sound cue, you shouldn't close the door right away because it'll waste too much power. So wait about 3 seconds and then close the door. If you've timed it right, you should very quickly hear them leave. When they leave, you should quickly check the light and open the door. The reason you need to check the light now is because the sound of a character leaving can actually cancel out the sound of one arriving, which is complete bullshit by the way, and for every microsecond that you're not pressing the light button or the door button, you need to make damn sure you're stabilizing the rooms, because if you aren't for even a second, I promise that you will lose this night. I'm being so serious. You have to play this section perfectly. No mistakes, no misclicks. It is fucking brutal the whole fucking time. If you want to get a really good feel for how bad it is, you can check out my playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. But if you can manage to complete this fucking brutal section of the game, we can continue. Walking through the corridors of the factory, we enter an elevator. Following it down, we reach a massive room. And inside, we find the supposedly deactivated Springtrap animatronic, and Jolly comes to a close. But I'm not done yet. Usually, when I write a script like this, I'm able to get out all of my frustrations. But no, not this time. This hour-long video hasn't been enough for me. This game has put me through so much bullshit! I've been holding back way too much, I think I'm gonna fucking explode! Some words to say, so I said them. I'm still fed up with this shit, so I grab my pad and my pencil. I'm about to go in, cause gotta be putting my foot down, a foot in. I cannot stop right now, I'm getting motion. I cannot call fit now and close all the curtains, cause George looking me up and down while licking on his lips. And Jolly coming up behind, grab my ass, said you mine, bitch. Nah, I don't got time for this shit. I got all these bitches climbing on me, they be beating on my ass like Muhammad Ali. I got a lot of emotions up inside me, better be believing one of them ain't Charlie. They be breaking on my back, Bruce Lee, even knowing that this shit is really fucking easy. I got a lot of emotions up inside me, better be believing one of them ain't Charlie. I'm really getting sick of this shtick. Tweety keep on grabbing on my dick and keep on twisting it. Maybe I would like it, but you're just a shitty Chica twin. Use the beak to eat my ass and wash it down with all my piss. Pissy bitch, you're pissing me off, so you deserve that. I'm pulling out these insults like they're rabbits in a hat. Jolly coming back for more, but had a heart attack. He be fat eating Big Macs, king of Big Macs. I got all these bitches climbing on me, they be beating on my ass like Muhammad Ali. I got a lot of emotions up inside me, better be believing one of them ain't Charlie. They be breaking on my back, Bruce Lee, even knowing that this shit is really fucking easy. I got a lot of emotions up inside me, better be believing one of them ain't Charlie. One more verse, I'll disperse. This game's so bad, I call it a big ol' booty curse. George would beat my ass, but he be getting fruity first. But he got no gas, so he ain't giving me the jerk. Maxie's accidentally glancing at me, slap the bitch back forth with my fat meat. Actually, Antoinette's coming at me. Rope bunny, bitch, your wires are still attached, G. I got all these bitches climbing on me. They be beating on my ass like Muhammad Ali. I got a lot of emotions up inside me. Better be believing one of them ain't jolly. They be breaking on my back, Bruce Lee, even knowing that this shit is really fucking easy. I got a lot of emotions up inside me. Better be believing one of them ain't jolly. And with that, we're finally done covering the Jolly series. I want to mention that at one point there was going to be a Jolly 4 with a Game Jolt page existing for it. But as of now, that game has been cancelled, and it doesn't seem like we'll be getting any updates for it, but I'll keep my eyes peeled. I also know about a series called Jolly Bees, which is supposed to be connected to these games in some way, but I've not played them and I know nothing about them, and even if I did, there's no way in fuck I'd want to cover them in this video. It's already long enough as it is. Overall, I think Jolly is a pretty bad fan game series. I know there's a lot of nostalgia behind it for some people, and that me saying that will probably not sit well with most. So if you're upset with me for dogging all over a game you really like, I can totally understand that. But I thank you greatly for being able to make it this far. I would be lying if I said I had a good time playing this series, but I will say that Jolly 3 Chapter 2 was definitely my favorite. It feels like it was the most under control and sound in its mechanics. Sure, it was repetitive, but that allowed me to have ample time to develop a good strategy, which I felt was very satisfying. I wouldn't want to play this series ever again, but it's clear a lot of love and care went into creating it, and that's something I would never make fun of. While this game might not be for me, I think it's great if it's something for you, and working on this video has been an interesting roller coaster. I've never spent this long in a video before, and I really hope that the outcome is something that you were able to find some entertainment in, even if you don't agree with me. The kings of classic FNAF fan games. What comes to mind when I say that? Maybe Five Nights at Candies, Five Nights at Wario's, Those Nights at Rachel's, and Treasure Island, to name a few. But for you freaks, you goons, you heathens, there might just be another answer. A game so popular when it came out, for a reason I'm not even sure of myself. Today, I'll be talking about that game. A game so utterly terrible, yet somehow loved. Sit back and relax, because today, we're diving into the weird world of Five Nights with Mac Tonight. Where do I even begin with this game? Probably by saying that for this video, I played both the first and second games, except not really because I played the remastered versions of them. Was this a good idea? No. These games were pretty bad, and unironically enough, the thing about them that pissed me off the most was the story, but we'll get into that later. And trust me, you don't want to miss that. The game starts as you'd expect an old FNAF game to begin. We pick up a newspaper and accept a job at a restaurant full of animatronics waiting to break our consent and make their willy wag. We enter the restaurant and get the first phone call of the night, and really begin the nightmare that is this game. Not only are these phone calls absolutely horrific from a story standpoint, but they're also somehow even worse from an immersion standpoint. Why? Well, not only are they quite literally impossible to hear because of how fucking loud the rest of the game is.
This is Chris. You may remember me. I'm the manager here at this business.
But I guess the developer thought that it'd be really funny not to cut out any of the mistakes by the voice actor.
We can't afford broken animatronics in a restaurant that hasn't even opened yet. We can't afford broken animatronics in a restaurant that hasn't even been broken to the public yet.
That's more funny than anything, but the whole barely being able to hear the phone call part is enough to make me want to throw a baby deer in a river. Oh yeah, and if that wasn't bad enough, the phone guy is also Australian, so that's just torture. Anyways, the phone guy doesn't really say anything of substance in this night, really only explaining the basics, but I get the feeling I can do a hell of a lot better than he can. Let's start by going over the few tools at our disposal. First, we have the cameras. No shit. On the cameras, we have a call button that is located on the camera that contains Mac Tonight. This button does what you'd think it does. Makes some noise, animatronics go, "Ew," and then leave. But who's affected by the call button? Let's think long and hard about that one, guys. I don't know. Maybe the fucker who's on the same camera? Jesus Christ, why am I having to explain this basic concept to you? You're like a toddler, a little stupid drooling baby, a little insignificant worm, rodent, vermin, bug. Sorry. No, I'm not. That's a lie. Anyways, the only threat on this night is Mac himself, and he's pretty damn basic. All he does is meander through your cameras, like holy shit, he's so slow. Eventually, he'll wander into your office, which, pause for a minute. This is not an office. I think we're just stationed in the kitchen. Maybe? I quite literally have no idea where we are right now, because this to the left is the drive-through window. So we have to be in the kitchen, right? Because if so, that's stupid. But whatever. When Mac gets to your office, all you have to do is use the call button to cause him to go back to his stage. Very basic. What's the downside? I'm glad you asked, because of course there's a downside. If you use the call button too many times, an error will begin. To fix it, all you have to do is go to your control panel and reboot it. God, don't you guys miss playing Five Nights at Freddy's 3? What's that? You don't? That's unsurprising because FNAF 3 makes me want to stick my penis in a blender. But believe it or not, that's not the only attack Mac is capable of. The other attack consists of being a fat ass and going through the drive-thru several times each night. As I'm sure you could have guessed, Mac has the chance to instead wander to the drive-thru window, and when he does, all you have to do is open the control panel and literally just tell him to fuck off, and he listens. Surprising, I know, but you know what? I'm not gonna complain because he listened, and I appreciate that. But after each night, we get to talk about the post-night cutscenes, which aren't really cutscenes because it's just a black screen with people talking. In this game, I have no idea who we play as, but who is important is the Australian man, so get used to hearing his voice a lot. The Australian man's name is Chris. He's the manager of the McDonald's we work at. And in this cutscene, he walks into the office of... I actually don't know who we could be talking to. It's clearly a higher up because Chris asks him for a raise, but I have no idea who this higher up could be. I'm guessing it's the owner of the building, or who knows, fuck, maybe it's the CEO of McDonald's, I don't know. Anyways, Chris walks into his boss's office and asks about a raise. Why do you ask? Well, this is where we get to talk about the most hilarious sequence of words I've ever heard. Chris says his daughter is sick, with either an infection or a disease. He doesn't know what it is, but in his expert McDonald's manager opinion, it looks fatal.
Well, so far my daughter and I are dealing with very little money, mainly affected by taxes and whatnot. She's currently going through some infection or disease. I don't know what it is, but it seems fatal.
I know this is supposed to be like a super serious moment in the story, but I just thought this sentence was so fucking funny. Maybe I'm an asshole. I don't know. Of course, Chris is all pissy that he doesn't get a raise, which, by the way, grow up. You did what you should have done and asked. You didn't end up getting it. That sucks. But you wanna know what you don't do? Throw a fucking temper tantrum and yell at your boss. Because that's just gonna get you fired, moron. I get your kid is probably dying, but you wanna know what'll make your financial situation a lot better? Not having a kid anymore. The boss explains that the reason Chris can't get a raise is because the company recently spent a lot of money on the new animatronics for the restaurant. They saw how well the Mac Tonight commercials performed on TV, so they thought it'd be a good idea to capitalize and buy the animatronics so that the company would make more money. That makes sense. However, because of this, the restaurant would be closed for a week while they did renovations on the building in preparation. This, overall, is a very valid explanation as to why Chris will not be getting a raise as of now. But instead, after only one fucking day of working at the goddamn restaurant, he's already both demanding a raise and throwing a fit after not getting one. Actual child behavior right here. Moving on to night 2, we get another call from our boy Chris. He's all mopey because his stupid kid is gonna die, blah, blah, blah. Who the fuck cares, am I right? He mentions something about the Hamburglar being found in the vents of the building, which, by the way, I would find hilarious if the Hamburglar wasn't also the most infuriating character in this entire game. Speaking of the Hamburglar, let's talk about what this dickhead does. The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburgers. The Hamburglar, the Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburger. The The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburgers, and based off of where they found him, is a vent animatronic. Actually, the vent animatronic, as no other characters actually use it directly. We'll talk about that later. The Hamburglar will try to find your vent and crawl inside of it, something I think is very interesting considering this fat motherfucker steals cheeseburgers for a living, something I'm sure his mother is very proud of. Now, here's where I get to talk about how much I hate this piece of shit. He has a few phases before he's fully in your vent. What you're supposed to do is, in the final phase before he enters, blow super hot air using a button in your cameras to scare him away. That in and of itself is super easy. The problem comes from not knowing where he is, which again is super surprising given his profession of choice. Now, in most FNAF games, when you look at the cameras, they slowly pan side to side. They do the same in Back to Nights as well. However, in most FNAF games, you can always see the character when they're on the camera, no matter what the position of the camera is. Can you tell where I'm going with this? If not, let me make it very clear for you. When the camera is panned all the way to the right on this vent camera, you literally cannot see the Hamburglar. Why is this a problem? Because the cameras move so goddamn slow that you often won't be able to tell when he's moving because the camera is constantly glued to the right side of the screen. Bro, I wish this camera wouldn't turn 400 billion feet away from that fucking thing. Bro, could you turn the fucking camera towards him so I can see his ass? Luckily for me, I eventually heard a sound cue he makes to make noticing his movements a lot easier. But holy shit, future FNAF game devs, please, for the love of God, don't make this mistake, because this made me want to find a silverback gorilla and have him start digging in me. But regardless, if you can learn the sound cue, the ham bitch boy really shouldn't be too much of an issue, and we can move on to the post-night 2 bullshit cutscene. This cutscene starts with Chris getting on the phone with who I'm assuming to be someone at the hospital that's seeing his daughter, which, by the way, doesn't make sense. In the previous cutscene, Chris told his boss he doesn't have money to even get his kid seen by the doctor, which, by the way, I know in the US you can't legally be denied medical care, but fuck you, it's not disclosed where this game takes place, so eat my balls. Regardless, it is confirmed she has a disease. Still insane that the disease doesn't have a name either, because they've also confirmed that there's nothing they can do and she is in fact going to die. I find it weird that they can both determine that it is fatal when they haven't confirmed what disease it is. Or who knows, maybe Chris is just retarded and can't pronounce words with more than 6 letters in them, as emphasized by him once again getting upset and calling his boss stupid for ordering the new animatronics for his, and I quote, greed of money.
That bastard. Ordering them pieces of junk just for his greed of money?
Moving on to night 3, we're told nothing important by Chris and are introduced to 2 new characters, Grimace and Ronald McDickhead. Let's talk about Grimace first, because Grimace would never hurt a fly. On purpose. Grimace works kind of like a foxy, having multiple stages before attacking you, except I actually just lied because he only has 1 phase before attacking you. When you see him move from his original position, all you need to do is press a button on your camera to make him go back. Are you starting to notice a pattern for this game's mechanics? That's fine. Maybe the main fucking mascot for McDonald's will be better. What does Ronald do? Well, he'll walk around the building, aimlessly probably, attempting to find your office. When he gets there, he'll make a sound cue and stand here. I can see this getting really... Who the fuck is that? What is Ronald McDonald? Oh my fucking ears! Oh my fucking ears! For fuck's sake! What the fuck was that? I think this is like a window to the dining area. Maybe. Again, I have no idea where we are in the building. When he is there... You wanna take a little guess what you have to do to stop him from turning into the gobble monster, lathering your nuts in honey and having a feast? Yeah, that's exactly right. You have to use the exact same call button that you use for Mac, except this time it makes no fucking sense because why the hell would that affect Ronald Donald? That's it. I'm not kidding. We're already at the point where we'll just talk about the next cutscene. For fuck's sake, people actually enjoy this game, and not just because of nostalgia. Whatever. In the night 3 cutscene, Chris goes into his boss's office, tells him that his daughter dying is somehow his fault, and then literally fucking stabs him to death. Slow way the fuck down. Really? That's your reaction to that? Sure, you didn't get the raise, but guess what? Clearly you were able to get her to the hospital. because you found out it was fatal. But guess what, dumbass? No amount of money would have made it not fatal. And if it could have made it not fatal, then that just means you waited too long to get to the hospital to get it checked. Now, you might be thinking, oh, he didn't want to go to the hospital because he didn't have the money for it. Usually that would make sense, but I'm gonna say fuck you to that thought process in this situation, because if this guy is willing to kill somebody because his daughter is dying, I don't think anything would have stopped him from going into the hospital to attempt to figure out what's going on with her in a timely manner. This story is such a headache. This story is frustrating, and this story makes my dick hurt. If the plot of this game is trying to make me not like Chris, then I take back my criticism, as it's doing a great job at that. But if it's instead trying to make me side with Chris and understand his way of thinking and say, you know what? Sure, killing someone is bad, but at least you could argue he had a good reason to, then this game is doing an absolutely horrendous job at doing so. Night 4 time. What does Night 4 introduce? Well, first, I want to take a brief moment to talk about the phone call and about how little sense this story makes. So, the phone guy is very clearly Chris. You can tell by the ear-grating Australian accent. So, I can't figure out the order of events that take place in this game. As we're playing through the nights, it's clear that the animatronics that were being brought have already arrived. The same animatronics that caused Chris's boss to not give him a raise. Cool. We're told in this phone call that the restaurant still has yet to open, which, by the way, raises a whole different ordeal of questions, like why the fuck are we even here? But whatever, let's forget about that for a moment. Throughout this phone call, it's very clear that Chris is bothered by the fact that the animatronics are moving from their positions at night, and he yells at us to move them back before we leave work. He says that we can't afford to have these animatronics break before the building is open to the public. So pause. Why the fuck does Chris care? Maybe I'm not even asking this question in the right way. So here, let's just pause and let's go over everything we know real quick and pretend that it all makes sense. Chris asks for a raise, gets denied. His daughter is told she's going to die and there's nothing they can do about it. Chris then kills his boss. This is what we know so far from the post-night cutscenes. We also know that Chris thinks the robots are stupid and have a part to play in his kid dying. So then tell me, why the fuck does he care so much about the state of these animatronics when in his mind they have a large part in why his daughter is either dead or dying? This is the big problem for me with this series. When I stop to think about why what's happening is happening, it just doesn't make any goddamn sense. And get this, when we start talking about the second game, it's going to make even less sense. No, I'm not joking. We'll talk about the second game in a bit, but this fact is just making me think that the dev wrote the story as he went. But okay, let's stop talking about the phone call now and move on to the threats this night introduces. Birdie and Mayor McCheese. Let's start with Mayor McCheese because it's literally just Mac tonight with a Fortnite skin on. Literally, he does the same thing. Can enter your office and show up at your drive-thru, is both dealt with in the same ways. Worthless character. With that out of the way, we can talk about the much more interesting character, which for a female bird character in a FNAF game, I surprisingly have no sexual tendencies towards it, because this bird is butt ugly. Birdie is the only other character that interacts with your vent, except unlike Big Boy, she doesn't actually enter it, probably because she's the size of Jupiter. All she likes to do is break your shit, so she must have gotten divorced, am I right, fellas? Anyways, her goal is to break your vent heater. A sound cue will play when she does so, and when she does, all you have to do is use your maintenance panel to fix it. And hey, while we're here talking about the maintenance panel, let's talk about how jank it is, and how it adds literally no challenge to this game whatsoever. The maintenance panel in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 adds a challenge because when something is being repaired, you can't use it, leading to a lot of bullshit timings that artificially make the game more difficult than it technically is. Mac Tonight's aimed to do the same thing, except they forgot the part where fixing something makes it temporarily unusable. While yes, the fixing beeps take a long time to finish, the moment you click the repair button, the problem is solved. So you can go to fix the heater, press the button, and immediately after use the heater to blow away the hungry bitch boy. Isn't that just awesome? The answer is yes, because without this gameplay flaw, this game would probably be impossible. Moving on to the night 4 post-night cutscene, we hear Chris driving in his car. And it's during this scene my mind was fucking blown, because this story somehow begins to make even less sense. It's here where we learn that up until now, Chris hasn't even been a manager. He was just an employee, and the guy he killed was the manager. Before I continue talking about this, we need to pause and immediately go over another massive flaw in this game's story logic. So, in case you didn't know, managers aren't the ones who give you a fucking raise, you moron! There is quite literally nothing he could have done for you. It's not his decision to make. The way raises typically work is the manager will recommend an employee for a raise. It's then either up to HR, a committee, the owner, or even higher management to decide whether or not to give the raise. This fucking retard killed a guy for no fucking reason whatsoever. And the craziest part, now he's taking his place. And that's why we hear him on the phone calls. He's the fucking manager now. Want to hear some even more mindfuck? He states on the phone call that he's going over to the facility where the animatronics are being stored to go destroy them. If he's destroying them, why the fuck does he care about them so much in the phone call we receive on night 4? What the actual fuck is going on in this goddamn story? It makes no fucking sense. And guess what? It's still going to make even less sense once we start talking about the second game. So strap in, guys, because if you haven't gone brain dead yet, then you're going to later. Going into night 5, we receive one last phone call from Chris. He thanks us for protecting the animatronics, even though literally in the night previously, we got yelled at for letting them move. But fuck it, whatever. At the end of this phone call, something enters the office and ganks his ass.
You should wait. What are you doing?
Oh shit.
Get away from me, you piece of...
Oh shit. Not totally sure what it is, we're left to finish off the night, which, as I'm sure you could have guessed, adds nothing new. So we can move right on to the post-night cutscene. So, I need you guys to take a deep breath before we dive into this cutscene, because you're going to need to use your head a lot. And honestly, it may implode from stupidity. During this scene, we hear the voice of Chris's manager, so we know that this has to take place before he was killed. He mentions that the animatronics have been very damaged in the facility they were being held in. We know from the last call that Chris was going to destroy them, which is why he was driving. So we know that scene takes place before this one. However, that also means that during that scene, Chris's boss was still alive, which means he went to destroy the animatronics to piss his manager off and then killed him. Now, slow down. That doesn't make any sense. Why would he do something like that if his final plan was to kill him? That wouldn't make any sense. He wouldn't get the chance to be angry about it because he'd be dead right after. I should also mention that his manager mentions needing to check the cameras to see what damaged them. And from a very, very important detail we will learn in the second game, it makes the scene where his boss is killed even more confusing. But I'll talk about that later once we learn this very important detail. For now, let's just move on to night 6. Remember how I said the call we got from Chris on night 5 was the last? Well, guess what, shithead? I lied to you. That's right, never trust YouTubers, especially not FNAF ones. They're either liars or pedophiles. And seeing the types of people I'm up against, I'm really glad I got given the liar trait and not the other one. Anyways, yeah, we still do get a phone call from Chris this night, except this time it's revealed that he's turned into an animatronic. Woo! Spooky, bitch! For some reason, he wants to kill us. I don't know why. He says that he can't have any witnesses, but that brings up way more questions. One, is he implying that we saw him kill his manager? Because I'm pretty sure we didn't. Trying to follow the timeline would show we weren't even working here at that time, so that's not possible. Second, even if we did see it, you're dead and have been turned into an animatronic or something. So it's not like you can be held responsible for your actions anyways. Also, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious Chris got killed by Mac in Night 5's phone call, as Chris is now a new threat in this night that will attack you. He's literally just Mac. He even looks like Mac. He attacks the doors, attacks the drive-thrus. Wahoo! Once you beat Night 6, you'll be thrown into a sort of free roam section, except not really, because it's a scripted scene where you walk up to Mac. He looks at you and the screen goes black, and then we get to talk about the post-night cutscene. This one takes place at who the fuck knows when. Chris is talking to his boss about getting a job watching over the warehouse where the animatronics are stored, the same place he later goes to destroy them. Okay, so we know this takes place before that, but can we pinpoint exactly when this takes place? The answer to that question is yes, and to answer it, we have to take a look at the second game. But before we hop over to that game, I have one more question to ask. What the fuck was the point of the character we played as during the night segments? We quite literally served no purpose. Apparently we were witnesses, but we never actually witnessed anything. At first I thought, maybe Chris is destroying the animatronics and then pretending in the phone calls to us it's something else doing it. But that wouldn't make sense because 1, we're not in the facility where they're stored, we're in the McDonald's, and 2, Chris killed his manager after he destroyed the robots. And we know that during the night sections his manager is already dead because Chris is the manager at that point. So what the fuck did we even do except just work at fucking McDonald's? I guess we got looked at by Mac at the end, but it seems like we were just utterly useless. Also, we were wearing a yellow glove, which would lead me to believe it was actually in the POV of fucking Ronald. I don't know what the hell's happening right now. But whatever, let's forget about this mess and just hope that Mactonites 2 is better than this one. Spoiler alert, it's a lot worse. Get a refill on snacks and drinks. Let's dive deeper down the shithole. When it comes to Five Nights at Mactonites 2, not only is it worse gameplay-wise, it's also worse story-wise, somehow. Let's start by getting one huge detail I noticed out of the way. On the title screen, you can see a list of credits, and if you look close enough, you can see that one of the people who helped work on this game was, Ivan G, aka the creator of my least favorite FNAF fan game series of all time, Jolly. If you'd like to hear me rant all about that game, you can do so after you finish this video, as I have an entire hour-long review of that game up on this channel. Also, I haven't done this at all in this video, so go subscribe to Dxtr Black, Dxtr Blue, Dxtr Gray, join the Discord server, and go check out the merch store as well. All links in the description. In Mactonites 2, we play as Chris, which would reveal that this game takes place both before the events of the first game and before Chris killed his manager. Loading into the first night, the phone call doesn't tell us a whole lot, basically what we already know. Chris took up the job to watch the warehouse where the animatronics are stored, but of course, we know he's just there to destroy them. Let's talk about our tools. This time around, we have 2 sets of cameras, one normal set and another set specifically for the vents. The only threat active on night 1 is Mac, who will walk through your cameras to try to get to your office. This time around, there are 2 entrances, that being 2 doors. Why? Because fuck you! What I really want to focus on was the biggest dick move I've ever seen a game pull before. Let's take a moment to tunnel vision on the only 2 cameras that matter in this game. Camera 2 and Camera 4. Both cameras are the cameras right next to your office doors, and through each you can remotely turn on a safety lock to keep the robots out. Each door has its own power supply. The problem? These power supplies drain fast as fuck. So much so that I was noticing on earlier nights that when Mac would appear on camera 4, that by the time he'd leave, I'd be left with a big chunk of power missing, which led me to believe that the remainder of the nights would be very difficult because no shit, he would be attacking more frequently. Something even cooler? Where does Mac go after camera 4? Camera 2. What's in camera 2? Another fucking entrance to the office. Holy shit, we have to waste even more power. Now pause. If you're familiar with this game, I can already tell you're going to the comments to explain to me how badly I'm not understanding how this mechanic works. And shut up. I know that's not exactly how it works. I like to explain based on my experience, and this is how it went. Turns out, this camera state is not Mac about to open the camera 4 door. He actually has 2 different phases on this camera, attack and no attack. When he's standing like this, away from the door, then you know he's just traveling to camera 2 to attack. He will look like this when it's actually him attacking camera 4's door. So what's the problem? Well, I literally never saw Mac go into his attack camera 4 state until night 3. Excuse me? I don't think that it's my fault for not noticing earlier when my RNG with movements is that dog shit. Holy fuck. But whatever. After learning that, I had no problems with Mac, and we're free to move on to the post-night 1 cutscene. Psych! Guess what? There aren't any. We're just jumping right into night 2. Night 2 drops a fucking bombshell on me and blows up all hope of understanding the lore of this game. It's revealed on this night that the phone guy isn't Chris's boss, as he mentions that the manager at a McDonald's had his throat slit, now establishing that Chris had already killed him. This doesn't make any sense, and it pisses me off. And you'll understand why later when we talk about that very important detail I mentioned earlier, so just bear with me a bit longer. For now, let's go over this night's threats. This night introduces this game's Toy Freddy equivalent, the Hamburglar. And no, not because of his game mechanics, but because he's a fat ass. He is the character to introduce the vent mechanics, exactly how he does in the first game, except this time it's somehow even more worthless. Once he enters your vents, he will appear in any of the 4. When he does, all you have to do is seal the vent he is in until he leaves. Each vent has its own power supply, and these too drain very fast. But that doesn't matter because even during this game's most difficult canon night, you will hardly ever be attacked. The phone guy mentions that only one vent can be sealed at a time, but fun fact, that's actually just not fucking true at all because you can seal all of them at the same time if you really wanted to, so that's cool. Night 3 introduces one new threat, but before we can talk about that, we need to talk about the headache that is this night's phone call. During this call, the phone guy tells us that Mac's box was moved and looks like it had been opened. Of course, that makes sense because we watched him walk around the building. All good. Whatever. However, he also mentions the progress the police have made on the murder of Chris's manager. They found out he was a former employee and that he was spotted running out of the building wearing a mask and a McDonald's uniform. Pause, please. My brain can only take so much stupidity at a time. So, what this tells us is that at the time Chris killed his manager, he wasn't working at the McDonald's because they referred to him as a former employee. That doesn't make sense because during the Night 3 cutscene in the first game, when Chris enters his manager's office to kill him, his manager mentions that there's nothing he can do to help. So we know he was working there. Maybe that was a mistake and he wasn't working there, or maybe this is a mistake and they shouldn't have said former employee. But let's just say this game is correct and he was a former employee. Why the fuck was he wearing a McDonald's uniform if he didn't even work there? This story doesn't make any fucking sense and nothing lines up. No, this is not a case of the game being mysterious and, ooh, it's our job as theorist hunters to piece it together. Fuck you. This is just bad writing, like really fucking bad writing. We still haven't even gotten the real bombshell yet, the very important detail I've been talking about throughout this video. But before we can get to it, we have to talk about tonight's threat, Birdie. Birdie did something unique in the last game. What about this one? Nope, she's just a Hamburglar. Enters vents, seal them, that's it. Moving on. Night 4 somehow manages to make even less sense than ever before. We're told that Birdie had gotten damaged, like a crowbar was smashed into her face. Okay, so we know that at this point, Chris had already begun breaking the animatronics. Cool. Now, here's the stupid part. We're told that the police are obviously still investigating the murder. They questioned all the current employees about the incident, and the phone guy tells us, no joke, that they put the employees who were suspects through a lie detector. Fuck the fact that lie detectors can be notoriously inaccurate. Let's talk about the fact that they know it's a former employee. Ding, 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 former. So why the fuck are the current employees suspects? That doesn't even make any fucking sense why they would suspect a current employee of being the murderer when they know it was a former employee. Sure, the guy was wearing a uniform, but they've already established that he was a former employee, aka not a fucking employee anymore. Am I overreacting? Does this story actually make perfect sense and I'm just retarded? I don't think it does. Anyways, the threat on this night is Mayor McCheese. He's just Mac. Goes to the door, close it, what the fuck ever. I know you guys are just interested in this story at this point and how retarded it is. Night 5 phone call. Let's go over it. Mayor McCheese was damaged. Obviously our doing. We're told that today is our last night, yet for some reason we're told that we can come in tomorrow if we really want to. Why? I literally have no idea. And the phone guy literally offers no good explanation whatsoever. It's clear that at this point, the phone guy thinks we're not doing our job well. And to be fair, We really aren't, so that makes sense. Really nothing important in this call, so let's just go over the final threat in this game, Grimace. Grimace, surprisingly, does something different than the other characters. He acts sort of like a phantom balloon bitch from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. He will slowly leave his box, and when he does, he'll appear on a camera. If you see him, close the cameras and he'll reset to his box. If you don't do it fast enough, he'll force your cameras to reboot, which will take a while. So like, just close the cameras. Who gives a fuck? Let's just talk about this stupid fucking story and the stupid fucking important detail I've been teasing for the last half hour. During the Night 6 phone call, it's revealed that the phone guy checked the cameras of the warehouse and saw Chris breaking the animatronics, specifically Grimace. He tells us that we need to get out, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know, no shit, he's pissed, and rightfully so. But hold up. Did you hear what I just said? He checked the cameras and saw us. Doesn't that sound familiar? Oh yeah, it does. Why, you ask? Well, this little tidbit is that super important detail I've been talking about throughout this video. Towards the end of Mac Tonight 1, during the final cutscene, we hear Chris's manager mentioning that the robots are being damaged and that he needs to check the cameras. This would tell me that this exact moment is what he was talking about then. But here's the crazy part. All of that would add up perfectly fine if it wasn't confirmed that the phone guy in the second game wasn't the fucking manager, because he said the manager was already dead. So who the fuck is this guy? And why did the manager say he needed to check the cameras of the warehouse at the end of the first game? This story literally makes no fucking sense whatsoever. There was no thought put into it. I can't piece any of it together because each piece of the fucking puzzle is from a different goddamn box. What the fuck do you expect from me, game? I finally get confident enough to talk about the stories of the games I play in my videos, and then I'm hit with this fucking bullshit. I've spent hours upon hours trying to figure this shit out, to find out it's been completely fucking broken from the start. The gears in my brain are turning so fast, I think the whole engine altogether is gonna fucking explode. Thank God I got that out of my system. But that's all Five Nights with Mac Tonight's has to offer. Yes, by the way, before you say anything, I know that there is a third game, but fuck you. It's confirmed to not be canon, so I don't give a fuck about it. This series was an experience I would be okay with never going through again. It wasn't nearly as soul-sucking as Jolly, however, it was definitely enough to cut several years off my lifespan. From horrific gameplay to the worst story I've ever seen in my life, Mac Tonight's truly doesn't have it all. Depravity. Something that plagues several corners of the internet. Whether you like to think about it or not, disgusting people lurk everywhere. They're in every community, interacting with countless people, and in the worst cases, interacting with minors. They corrupt even the most wholesome of communities and snake their way into people's trust. But even the slimiest of snakes get the light shined on their dark desires eventually. And while it may hurt people knowing that someone they looked up to or someone who created something they really enjoyed were one of these snakes, it's always important to remember, though, that a bad apple doesn't always spoil the whole orchard. Today, we'll be talking about an incredibly infamous game in the Five Nights at Freddy's community. I'm not the first, nor will I be the last to speak about it, but I and many other sensible people are capable of separating the art from the artist, and are plenty capable of commenting and criticizing a piece of media without attaching its creator to it. And that's what I'm going to be doing today. Towards the end of this video, I will also be talking about the creator of this game to give you a better understanding of what he was like before he seemingly left the internet. If things are about to get uncomfortable or depraved, I will give ample warning before we talk about said subjects. But in general, viewer discretion is advised. Come with me as we dive into the sick and depraved world of Dormitabus. But before we talk about the disgusting story of this game that would make most normal people want to throw up, we first have to talk about the actual gameplay, which I'll tell you is definitely something. I'll let you be the judge of whether or not it's actually good. There's no better place to start than night 1, which I will mention, Dormitabus takes a different approach to nights than most FNAF games. Generally speaking, FNAF games have 5 nights, corresponding to 1 work week on the job, with a typical 6th day of overtime and 7th optional night to round out the week. Since in Dormitabus we play as a character who isn't actually working anywhere, Dormitabus is not tied to a typical week, instead having 10 nights rather than the typical 6. So let's dive right into night 1. Let's start by talking about this goofy-ass office. You can travel from one side of the office to the other. One side of the office lets you look at your cameras, and the other side of the office has literally fucking nothing. But I'll go over why the useless side of the office is technically not useless in a moment. Another question you may have is, why the hell do we run under the table to get to the other side of the room when there's plenty of space on both sides of the table to walk around? Now you see, the answer to that question is fuck you. But now let's actually talk about some animatronics. As usual, I will explain each animatronic as they're introduced into the game, and on night 1, we only have one animatronic to deal with, that being Havoc Freddy. Try your best not to focus on these goofy-ass designs. They have their own charm, in a way. Havoc Freddy is one of the most simple characters in all of Dormitabus. Freddy will move throughout the cameras, slowly inching towards your office. He arrives at your left door, and when he does, you can turn to your left to double check that he's there. You'll be able to see him peering in at you. When he's there, you'll need to run to the other side of the room. At that point, he will almost immediately go away. I have no idea why this scares him away. I guess he's brain dead, but I'm not going to complain about an easy mechanic. Fun fact, you can actually make this mechanic even easier by never even checking if Freddy is at your door. Freddy makes a very noticeable sound cue when he arrives at your door, that being the sound of a door creaking directly in your left ear. I wonder if the other animatronics will be any harder. As mentioned, Havoc Freddy is the only enemy in night 1, so beating it should be a cakewalk. What does night 2 have in store? Well, night 2 doesn't have Havoc Freddy present, and this is where I want to bring up something about this game that I actually think is pretty cool. In most FNAF games, as the nights go on, more and more animatronics will be added, and on top of that, they will become more and more aggressive. Dormitabus takes a different approach. Because of how many characters there are, it would not be possible to deal with all of them at once if their AI levels were super high. So instead, the game experiments with animatronic combinations, pairing a few animatronics together, rather than throwing all of them at you at the same time, which I think is actually pretty cool. But for animatronics in night 2, we have Havoc Chica and Am I Real, also known as Cake Bear. Let's start with Havoc Chica, as her mechanic is the easiest to deal with of the two. Havoc Chica is pretty much just a slightly more annoying version of Havoc Freddy, with one deep, cutting, wounding flaw that I'll get to later. Chica will move around the building and make her way to your right door. Once Chica gets to your door, you can turn to check if she's there, but like Freddy, she also makes a very obvious sound cue, that being laughing in your right ear. When Chica is at the door, all you need to do is run to the useless side of the room and stare at Chica. Once she leaves, you will have to very quickly run back to the camera side of the room. If you don't move back fast enough, Havoc Cupcake will have a feast with your yeast. That's disgusting. I'm sorry. Oh my god. Now it's time to talk about Am I Real? Am I Real moves around the cameras at random. Whenever he enters a new camera, he will audibly state which camera he moved to. Once you hear him say a camera, you will have to switch to that camera and check which form he's in. Am I Real has 2 possible forms, one form being Am I Real, a gross Springtrap looking design, and the other form being Cake Bear, a much more normal Freddy looking design. If you check the camera and see Cake Bear, you're free to continue playing the game as usual, no call for alarm. However, if you check the camera and you see Am I Real, you will have to stay and stare at that camera for what can feel like at times an entire minute, until Am I Real turns back into Cake Bear. Now, this may sound scary, especially when you think about the fact that in order to run to the other side of the room to avoid Havoc Chica and Freddy, you have to turn the cameras off. But the game knew this would be a problem, so when you shut the cameras off to move to the other side of the room, it will still count as you staring at that camera, meaning that Am I Real will still turn back to Cake Bear even if you're on the other side of the room, as long as the last camera you were looking at was Am I Real's. If you don't watch Am I Real, he will appear at your right door, and once he's there, there's nothing you can do to stop him from giving you a rough spanking that a lot of you freaks will really like. If you can manage all of that, then congratulations! You're ready to move on to Night 3. Night 3 uses Havoc Freddy, Am I Real, and 2 new characters, Soul Cage and Molten Evil. I'll cover Molten Evil first. Molten Evil will only ever appear in your office. When you see him, he will start to cover your screen with blue plasma. Once this plasma is on your screen, you will have to play dead by looking up at the ceiling. Don't ask, I know it doesn't make any sense, but just pretend like it does for me. After looking at the ceiling for long enough, the plasma will go away and you'll be safe to look down again. If you look up before the plasma is on your screen, Molten Evil will wait until you look back down before putting the plasma on your screen. So looking up early really only just stalls him. Soul Cage is somewhat similar in a way. Soul Cage will move around the cameras and slowly piece itself together. Once it's put together fully, it will make its way to your right door. Once he arrives, he too will play a sound cue to let you know he's there. When he does, you'll have to look over at him. Afterwards, he'll enter your office and move up onto your ceiling. In order to get him to leave, all you have to do is stare up at the ceiling at him until he goes away. If you haven't noticed yet, every single character can be dealt with by staring at them. And if you're hoping that the other characters will be different, most of them will cause you to be sorely disappointed. Hate to break it to you. Wait, who am I kidding? I love breaking bad news. Night 4 only introduces one new character, but the returning characters are Havoc Freddy, Havoc Chica, and Am I Real? The new character is Havoc Puppet. Havoc Puppet moves around the cameras and makes its way to your back window, which is located right behind your computer. Once Havoc Puppet appears in your window, it will make a very noticeable sound cue. At that point, all you have to do is turn around to your window and stare at it until it goes away. Are you starting to notice a possible game mechanic flaw with Dormitabus? Literally every character is answered by looking at them, and that's literally it. Hopefully, we get a new character soon that's at least a little different. Holy fucking shit, this new character is bullshit. Okay, let's take a step back and relax for a second. Every character up until this point has been Baby Caca easy mode. Night 5 consists of Soul Cage, Havoc Puppet, Am I Real, and the two brand new Wombo combo, Havoc Foxy and Golden Call. Havoc Foxy and Golden Call are pretty much one and the same, as one of them really can't work without the other. Havoc Foxy is on camera 5, something I thought was weird because the phone guy on this night says that he's on camera 4, which is just flat out wrong, but let's move past that. Havoc Foxy has 3 phases on his camera, which the final has Foxy standing out of his curtains. You can slow down Foxy by watching his camera, and this will become very important because you want to avoid his 3rd phase as much as you can. However, this can prove difficult because of one character I'm sure you've already thought about, Am I Real? With Am I Real hogging most of your camera time, Foxy is free to buttfuck you as much as he wants. Once Foxy reaches phase 3, Golden Call comes into play. After reaching phase 3, Golden Call will send a voicemail to your computer with a Trojan virus attached. In order to remove the Trojan, you'll have to type in a password. How do you get the password? Well, this is when phase 3 Foxy becomes important. While in phase 3, Foxy will be holding a sign with the randomly generated phrase on it. You'll have to read the phrase on the sign and find the longest word. The longest word will be the password you need to get rid of the Trojan. Once you remove the Trojan, you will have to very quickly run to the other side of the office and watch the right side door as Foxy will soon be approaching. Once Foxy peers in, all you have to do is stare at him until he goes away. Afterwards, you'll be free to go back to your cameras and resume business as usual. Congrats! You've successfully survived a Golden Call attack. Are you stressed? Well, you should be because you're going to be seeing a lot more of that. Again, the real problem with Havoc Foxy and Golden Call isn't really their mechanics. That's fine. The problem really comes down to Am I Real? Again, Am I Real constantly requires your attention as he moves around the cameras often. Just by himself, he'll take away from your time stalling Foxy, and once you get a Trojan, you'll have to stop looking at Am I Real to find the password. But not watching Am I Real will get you killed really easily. Generally speaking, from my experience, you want to drop everything for Golden Call, get the password in as fast as you can, quickly switch back to Am I Real's camera before running to the other side of the room to watch Foxy. I feel like this will give you the most success. Night 6 includes Havoc Foxy, Havoc Chica, Molten Evil, and Am I Real. While that alone may sound like a very unfun time, just wait until I introduce the next most frustrating character on the planet, the BOA, or as I like to call it, Boa, aka Boa Bitch Boy. Boa starts in a box on the cameras and slowly emerges from it, afterwards making its way to your right door. Once there, it will give you a sound cue. When you hear it, you will need to quickly move to the other side of the room. Something pretty interesting about Boa is that he actually speaks to you. If you run into the other side of the room, Boa says this. Once you get to the other side of the office, just like most characters, all you have to do is look at it. You might be wondering why this character is so frustrating if he acts exactly the same as Havoc Chica. Well, the answer to that question is simple. Boa Bitch Boy sits at your door for approximately 17 years, and that number came from countless hours of crunching the numbers, analyzing algorithms. I promise it's very accurate. That's seriously why Boa is such a difficult character to deal with. Mixed with all the other characters that require so much of your attention, having a character that requires double or maybe even triple the amount of time can feel like a purgatory. But if you can handle that, you'll be on to Night 7. Night 7 contains Soul Cage, Molten Evil, and the deadly Wombo combo of Havoc Foxy, Golden Call, and Am I Real? No new characters on this night, but I'm sure it's just so that players have some time to find some strategies that can fend off the Butthole Trilogy gang. Night 8 is where this game cranks the dial up to 1,000. While it introduces no new characters, the combo of characters present is enough to make any grown man cry. I know I did. Night 8 consists of Havoc Freddy, Havoc Chica, Havoc Foxy, Golden Call, Am I Real, and the icing on the cake, the Boa. This lineup of characters is actually so disgusting, I find it difficult to use vocabulary fitting enough to describe my disgust. I could dish out 100 vulgarities, and it still wouldn't be enough to portray the feeling of dread you get while trying to beat this night. The Wombo combo mixed with the Boa is already bad enough, but throw Freddy and Chica into the mix and you're itching for somebody to commit quintuple homicide on everybody in their domicile. This is probably the most infamous night in this entire game. There's a one-on-one boss fight on a later night, but that doesn't even compare to this bullshit. You want to know the main issue? The main issue is that this night is entirely dependent on luck. That's the worst part. Most people who play FNAF will tell you that luck is the most unenjoyable part of any FNAF game because it doesn't matter how much you practice. Your chances of winning is entirely dependent on whether or not the game decides to fuck you in the asshole. And for some unfortunate people who played this game soon after it released, had to deal with an absolutely foul bug. Remember when I said that Chica had a terrible flaw? This is the time where I get to explain that flaw to you, the viewer. Chica used to have an incredibly glaring bug, that being, you would hear Chica laugh, signaling for you to move to the other side of the office to stare at her. So you do, but as you turn to look at her, she won't be there. Moments later, Nightmare Cupcake would kill you, almost like you ignored Chica altogether, but you know you didn't, and she just didn't appear. This would happen incredibly frequently. Fun fact, it was actually this exact bug that made Dawko give up on this night and skip it. I can only imagine how incredibly frustrating it must have been for players to pour so much time into this night, get to 6 AM, only to then die because Chica decided she didn't want to work. Absolutely foul. I never had to deal with this bug, so it appears to not be a problem anymore, but let me know in the comments if you've experienced the problems with this Havoc Chica bug. If you can somehow manage to keep your sanity intact through Night 8, then you can finally move on to Night 9. And let me tell you, it will feel incredibly underwhelming because Night 8 is so much harder. Night 9 consists of Soul Cage, Havoc Puppet, Havoc Foxy, Golden Call, Molten Evil, and Am I Real? Can you figure out why this night is easier than the previous? Yeah, you're exactly right. It's because the Boa isn't there to slam your dick in a car door. I don't have much to say about this night, honestly. The voice acting of the phone call is pretty questionable, but I'll talk more about the phone calls in a while. Night 10, however, I do have something to talk about. Remember how I said one of the nights in this game is a one-on-one boss fight? Yeah, this is that night. You go up against a character you haven't seen before named Garvey. Now, since Garvey is the only animatronic on this night, you may think it's going to be easy. And while I'd say it's still easier than Night 8, it's definitely not easy by any means, so get that thought out of your head right now, bucko. So I'm going to warn you ahead of time that Garvey's mechanics are not technically difficult, but you'll understand why he's such a pain in the ass as this explanation goes on. Let's get one huge problem out of the way. You're only allowed to be looking at the cameras for a specific amount of time throughout the night. The more you look at the cameras, the darker your vision gets. It's definitely slow, but once it starts to get dark, you'll totally be able to tell. Garvey can attack from 3 different locations. Think of these locations as the left, the middle, and the right. Left and right are the most straightforward. You will have to listen for Garvey's laughter. This will give you a pretty clear indication of which side he's about to attack you from. At this point, you must open up the cameras. This is the part where I should mention that there's been a vent toggle button on the cameras this whole time. I never brought it up because it hasn't ever been important up until this point. After you pull up the camera and toggle the vents, you must click on the vent of the side Garvey is coming from. This will temporarily slow him down. At this time, you must very quickly run to the other side of the office and stare at the door he'll be coming from. Beating him to the door is key. You have to be staring at the door before Garvey peeks in, which can be challenging because you need to be fast. Like, really fucking fast. It will not feel remotely fair, but as you start to learn his speed, it will get slightly easier. Which, like, no fucking shit. That's how practice works. Insane that I have to explain to you how practicing works, and yet, here we are. Now, there will come a few times where you will hear his laughter in both of your ears. At this time, all you have to do is look straight up at the ceiling. You'll be able to see him staring back at you. Keep staring until he disappears, and you'll be good to continue. Honestly, the best part of this night is that you don't have to deal with Golden Call. God fucking damn, I hate that stupid ass animatronic bitch. But if you can manage to hunker down and deal with all of the garbage for long enough, you'll be able to beat night 10. But what happens then? Well, a cutscene plays. At our desk, we will be able to see a heart on the table for some reason. As we're confused, wondering why it's there, Garvey shatters the window behind us and begins chasing us through the building. We get trapped near a door and enter one final spacebar mashing minigame. The screen cuts to black and we're shown a gravestone of a John Wright, stating brat, scum, waste of air. So, that might seem confusing to you. So I suppose it's time I explain a bit about the lore, huh? Bear with me, as this is not one of my strong suits. So that John Wright on the tombstone is us. We've been playing as John Wright, as is mentioned in the Night 1 phone call. A man by the name of Peter is the phone guy, and he's the one calling us throughout the nights. He claims he used to be a security guard at Freddy Fazbear's. On night 1, Peter explains that we're dead and in a sort of purgatory, with several monsters roaming the buildings. And these monsters are supposedly our childhood friends. The reason why we're in a Freddy Fazbear's-like location is because our mind shapes the purgatory based off of the things we've seen, which could suggest we either worked at a Fazbear's location before, or at least have a strong tie to one. Peter says we can escape this purgatory, but he needs our help. He says to grab an audio tape that should be on the desk next to the fan. This is also where we learn that there is a tape that we need to collect on each night. All tapes, aside from the first, will appear randomly on one of the cameras, and I'll get into these tapes later. On night 2, Peter explains his theories about why we're being hunted by the animatronics. He believes that someone or something tried to manifest these ghosts into physical bodies. That attempt clearly failed, which is why all of the characters look so fucked. Peter believes that because we are ghosts, we have a plasma of sorts that the animatronics need to survive, and that's why they're trying to eat us up like a gourmet steak. We don't get the next meaningful piece of information from Peter until night 5, where he tells us that Golden Call is his own physical remains. That means we've identified one of the animatronics trying to attack us, and we'll soon be able to find out who everyone else is as well, but we can cover that later. Peter tells us that the tapes we've been collecting are memories from our traumatic childhood. Peter mentions how an ominous key is also on these tapes, and I'm willing to bet that this key is Garvey. Peter thinks that collecting all of these tapes will allow our friends to move on and become regular ghosts, not being trapped in this purgatory with us anymore. On night 6, Peter explains to us that he has tapes too in his version of the purgatory, and that both his memories and ours are in one way or another tied to Freddy's locations. He says he missed a few of his tapes because you only get one attempt. The first 10 days in the purgatory decide your fate. Missing one tape is the difference between a chance at escape and spending eternity fending off your suffering dead friends stuck inside of robotic bodies. Peter begs us to collect the tapes and free everyone because he can't anymore. On night 7, Peter says the animatronic sleep cycles are all out of whack. He's been doing this for years while stuck here and was able to find a pattern with their sleep cycles. But out of nowhere, once we came here, those cycles started to change for some reason. Peter mentions he found a key and tried to use it on the exit door, but it didn't work. He says he'll update us as soon as he can. On night 8, we get some pretty crucial information. Peter has found another key, and he believes something may happen soon. He says we probably don't have any keys in our purgatory because he thinks the keys are linked to a specific trauma he suffered. He also thinks he knows why the animatronic sleep cycles are messed up. Apparently, we brought something into this world, and it's big, with loud footsteps causing the characters to wake up when they're not supposed to. Peter says that if this thing we brought in is what he thinks it is, that we're all sorts of fucked. And of course, knowing what we already know, we can take a pretty good guess at who that might be. Night 9 is where we get to hear Peter's final moments. The monster we let enter this world is exactly who Peter thought it was. Garvey. Garvey has been tearing all of the monsters in Peter's purgatory into pieces. Peter knows that we apparently know who Garvey is. He tells us he's hiding behind the curtains where Foxy is and that Garvey is coming for him. He tells us to get the keys, and the call ends. The 2 keys he's mentioned can be found. The first on night 10 in the same location where you find the tape on camera 5. The second key requires me to tell you about a night I have yet to mention, night 11, aka Nightmare. No matter how good you are at FNAF games, nothing will prepare you for just how surprisingly difficult this night really is. They cranked the AI for these characters on this night up to 10,000. Holy shit, it's insane. From 10 a.m. to 5 a.m., you go up against Havoc Freddy, Havoc Chica, Havoc Foxy, Havoc Puppet, Golden Call, The Boa, Soul Cage, and Molten Evil all at the same time. This has to be one of the most stressful challenges I've ever attempted. It is ridiculous. The sheer speed you have to even get close to beating this night is ridiculous. You quite literally have no time to rest for even a second. There is constantly something happening, and it's enough to give any grown adult a seizure and kill them instantly. But that's not even the worst part, no. The worst part comes at 5 a.m., when Garvey comes and kills everyone, and you're yet again thrown into a final, even more difficult Garvey boss fight for the last 2 hours of the night. If you thought he was quick before, boy, you better be Usain Bolt, because you need to be doubling your speed. It is insane how fast you really have to be if you want to be able to complete this night. But if you can manage to beat this night while grabbing the second key that's on camera 8, congrats! You're almost ready to achieve the good ending. There are a few prerequisites required to get the good ending. The first is getting the 2 keys. Check. The second is collecting all of the tapes. Check. The third is beating night 11. Check. The fourth is listening to the 10th tape. Come to think of it, we actually haven't dove into the tapes yet, so we'll do that now. But here's that warning I mentioned at the beginning of the video. The topics that take place in these tapes are highly disturbing and are one of the main reasons why this game is so controversial. Viewer discretion is heavily advised. The 10 tapes you collect throughout Dormitabus tell the story of Garvey Wright, John Wright's, our character's, brother. The tapes go over Garvey's plan to murder several children and stuff them into the suits in his father's establishment. There's another minigame you can play in Dormitabus called Cardboard Theater, where you play as Garvey and live out a few of the scenarios mentioned in these tapes. Not only did Garvey murder several children, he also murdered his brother Peter. Yes, the same Peter who was calling us throughout the game. In the Cardboard Theater, we get to watch the spring lock failure happen to Garvey before he has the chance to kill John and leave no witnesses. Garvey's father soon sells the Cake Bear establishments because of the controversy, and it gets bought and turned into what we now know as Freddy Fazbear's. John gets a job at the Fazbear Fright location from Five Nights at Freddy's 3 and goes head-to-head with his brother, who in this game's story basically took William Afton's place as Springtrap. And as you know if you've played FNAF 3, John burns the building down and kills himself as well. After his death is where Dormitabus takes place. By collecting the tapes, collecting the keys, and beating Cardboard Theater, John is able to send Garvey to hell while setting the rest of the spirits of his dead friends and brother free. Dexter, that sounds pretty normal for a FNAF-style game, I hear you saying. Why did you tell me that viewer discretion was advised? Well, that's because of the contents of Tape 3, and a specific news clipping that you see near the end of the game. In Cardboard Theater, you will need to recollect the 2 keys you collected before while playing. At the end of this minigame, Cake Bears will be unlocked, acting as the final 12th night of Dormitabus. The only 2 characters present in this night are Cake Bear and Havoc Puppet. I won't spend too much time explaining this night since you only ever have to beat it once. Cake Bear will move around the map and make it to your desk. You can stall him by lighting the candle on his cake, but I'm not sure if I'd actually do that because it drains power. Once he gets super close to your desk, quickly pull up the camera and he should go away. Havoc Puppet can appear randomly on any camera and will block your view. Since watching Cake Bear is essential, you'll want to get rid of the puppet. Simply staring at the puppet will cause it to go away, but sitting in the cameras will cause the battery to drain incredibly quickly, so it's best to wait until the battery is fully charged before dealing with him. If the battery goes dead, Havoc Puppet will disable it, which will lead to an inevitable death to Cake Bear. After beating Night 12, you'll be greeted to the FNAF 4 box. You must use the 2 keys you've collected to open it, and several news clippings will be given to you, each detailing the gruesome murders of some of the children at the hands of Garvey. But I'll cover them in just a moment. Back to the tapes. I referenced tape 3 being the most alarming of all of them. Rather than explain it to you, I'll just play it.
My God! This is most certainly beginning to be fun. There's this hot 15-year-old that was part of the kids' friends group. You know, it was fun. She screamed, but nobody heard her. It was so much fun. She's in one of the suits now. Just a little more time until Fredbear's is going down as well. But hey, I'll find my ways to catch her at the others.
You may have a good idea as to what Garvey is referencing doing in this tape, but if you need any clarification, one of the news clippings will confirm your suspicions. It reads, "The Fredbear's establishment in town was recently closed because of an accident with the animatronical characters. The CEO is now selling the franchise just like the previous owner did. The dirt that has been shed onto the establishment increased even more, as the police found the remains of a 15-year-old female in the back of the establishment, stuffed into a suit. She was supposedly raped to death by a yet unknown killer. Connections to the incident at the previous establishment are already being drawn." This clipping right here, mixed with the excitement in the voice of Garvey in tape 3, is the sole reason why this game is so hated and is so disgusting. Almost everybody agrees that throwing rape into this story was completely unnecessary. Some may argue that depraved people will do depraved things like this, and it's odd to not acknowledge that terrible things like this really happen. And to a point, I understand your thought process. But to feel the need to add it to a game that will most definitely be played by children with no prior warning is insane. And it gets even worse when you dive into the person who made the decision to put this into the story, Blackout. Blackout has since left the internet, but a while after Dormitabus released, one of the members of the Radiance team responsible for games such as Treasure Island and Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese Rebooted posted an unlisted YouTube video going over Blackout's messages of harassment towards them. Soon after that video followed a Google document surfacing regarding Blackout's behavior, regarding joking about raping people, being hateful towards trans people, and a laundry list of other terrible things. But the most egregious thing that Blackout has done was the Discord messages that were released revealing him to have been grooming a 12-year-old girl, making jokes about Germany's lax age of consent laws, and at one point even sending nudes to this child, this 12-year-old girl. After all of this unfolded, Blackout went on a hate brigade full of harassment and eventually left the internet, thanking his supporters that he for some reason thought he had. Now going to his Game Jolt page reads one message. "Jesus Christ, just leave me be. I don't want to live in your heads rent-free. I've moved on, and you should as well. Bye." And with that, that's where the story of Dormitabus ends. A game that could have been something amazing, with a story that was really promising, soiled and ruined by a disgusting, perverted pedophile. Again, I encourage everyone to try their best to separate the art from the artist, but if you can't do that, then I'd recommend checking out the remake of Dormitabus that was made by some very talented creators if you're still interested in seeing what this game has to offer, minus all of the disgusting and unnecessary perversions. Today, I have the misfortune of telling you about a game that made me so incredibly angry during my playthrough that I've avoided making this very Dxtr White video for the last several months. I have not wanted to touch this game ever since I finished playing it, but here I am. I noticed that I've only been covering games that have been making me happy recently. Games that don't make my blood vessels explode. Well, I figured today I'd switch it up a little bit and talk about a game that makes me so irrationally angry I can barely breathe just thinking about it. Let's waste no more time and jump into the absolute dumpster fire of a world that is Fangs, Pizza, and Theater. Before the game even begins, we're thrown into Event, with seemingly something standing outside of it. I personally find it fitting that we're sitting in Event because that's personally where I will be crawling to die after finishing this video, which, by the way, I will tell you, I cannot wait for. I'm only 3 paragraphs into this, and I'm already dreading writing the rest of this video. I played this game so long ago that I've mostly wiped it from my memory, so now I'm forced to watch somebody else play it and relive my traumas like a patient with PTSD. But with that, we're thrown into night 1 and we can talk about the tools at our disposal. And how much I fucking hate them. To start, we obviously have our camera system. Of course, it's a FNAF game, so that's pretty par for the course. On top of that, we have a flashlight. However, this flashlight does not work the way a flashlight normally works. No, that would be too easy and make poor little Dxtr too happy. Instead, they had to make this flashlight literally worse than Satan. While yes, this flashlight does work as a normal flashlight, it will also be our main form of defense throughout this entire game. So get used to using it constantly. But we'll talk more about that once we start talking about the threats this piece of shit bullshit fuck-ass game introduces. The flashlight's battery will decrease very fast for reasons I'll talk about a bit later. For now, let's talk about what you have to do when this flashlight gets low on battery. Well, I'm sure you've noticed just from the footage I'm showing you on screen right now, but the office we're in is pretty big. Turning around completely, we'll find a shelf with several batteries on it. Clicking on one of these piles of batteries will completely fill our flashlight, but we obviously only have a limited amount of batteries, so we can't be retarded about it. The last thing I want to talk about before we dive into the characters this night introduces are the 3 entrances to our office. The left vent, the window in front of us, and the right door. That's really it. There's no way to close any of them. They're just entrances. Okay, moving on. Night 1 introduces 2 threats, and both of them go to show off the worst mechanic this game has to offer, in my opinion, that being the main fucking mechanic. Maybe I'm just salty today, I don't know, but I really didn't like this game, as I'm sure you could have already been able to tell. Let's start from the simplest character, Faye. Faye acts as this game's introductory character. She's so incredibly easy to understand, but don't let that fool you. I've lost several fucking times to this piece of shit, so don't get it twisted. Faye will begin on the east stage. From there, she'll move to the dining room, to the bar where you'll be able to find me for the next week until it's time for me to write the next white video. Then, from the bar, she'll move to the hallway, wherein directly after she'll show up outside of our office window. And this is also where the first ass-clenching mechanic gets introduced. You can't see characters in your office unless you flash your light on them. Now, is this a problem by itself? No, of course not. Not at all. However, when your main mechanic is your flashlight and you need to waste power constantly checking bullshit, then it makes me piss an entire fire hydrant out of my urethra. Anyways, when you see Faye at your window, that's when it's time to act. And this is also where I get to talk about that silly little thing your flashlight does that I mentioned earlier. If you hold down your flashlight, it'll slowly charge and then release a light so bright you'd think a 3rd nuke was dropped on Japan. Bam! Bitch, the light of God on your ass. Obviously, Faye doesn't fucking like it when you literally put the sun in her eyes, so she backs off and goes back on stage. However, using this big mega flash wastes a bunch of power on your flashlight, so it's likely you'll have to grab a battery. Dxtr, that doesn't really sound so bad. I don't know why you're complaining. Well, just sit back. If you haven't figured out what this game is about to do to my organs, you will soon find out, so stick around. The second threat introduced on this night is the main attraction, Fang. Fang is everything you hate about Faye, except even worse because he has more choices. Typical man, am I right, ladies? Huh? No? Okay, moving on. Fang will begin on the east stage with Faye. From there, he'll move to the dining room. However, at this point, he has two options for what he can do next. Let's cover his first route first, wherein he'll go from the dining room to the restrooms and from the restrooms to the hallway. Want to hear something awesome about him going to the hallway? You can't fucking see him when he's there. Why? Because fuck your mother in the face, that's why. From the From the hallway, he'll jump into the vents, which thankfully you can hear. And then, finally, he will be in the vent entrance of your office. Of course, you won't be able to see him without your flashlight, and just like Faye, when you see him, drop Little Boy on him and he'll go away. Alright, time to talk about Fang's second route, where he goes from the dining area to the bar. Once again, you will notice I am still present there because I've drank so much to the point where the bartender took my keys and I'm sitting there thinking, bitch, I can't leave. I'm miles away from home and you took my keys, so I guess I'm staying the night. After that, Fang moves to the hall corner, and from there he appears at our office's doorway. Do you want to take a guess what we do when he's there? That's right, we drop Fat Man on his ass and he'll go away. Are you starting to notice a pattern here and why it might be possibly incredibly frustrating, especially on later nights when the AI really kicks it into high gear? If not, you'll soon learn. But that's all this night has to offer. Of course, we also get a post-night minigame to play. Hooray! I never actually got any minigames in my playthrough. I'm not really sure why, and I don't give enough of a fuck to figure it out, if I'm being honest with you. So let's just talk about the minigame. In it, we have to talk to our boss, which is this thick rabbit. And bro, I'm not gonna lie, I'd suck the cum out of her dad's dick just to get the recipe, because... And bro, I'm not gonna lie, I'd suck the cum out of her dad's dick just to get the recipe because hot damn, I'd go crazy for this thing. She tells us to take out the trash like a good little boy, and I get down on all fours and do whatever she tells me to. Ruff, ruff! While looking for garbage cans, we walk into the bathroom and get teleported into some grandma's varicose veins. I'm not really sure why we're here, but there's shadow children running around and flashing hallucinations. After walking around the most nauseating place I've ever been in my entire life, we find this thing. What is it? I literally have no idea. But after we touch it, we're teleported back to the restaurant where we can find the rest of the garbage and finish up our shift by talking to mommy, and finally night one comes to a close. I really don't like how long it took me to talk about this night because I still have so much more to talk about, and I really would like to go back to forgetting that this game even exists. So let's just keep trucking through it. Starting night 2, we have another cutscene. This time, instead of being an event, we appear under a table or something. Who cares? We hear some footsteps, see whatever the hell this is at the end, and finally we're dropped into the next night section. During the phone call, we learn that the owner is trying to sell off the company. Last night's phone call told us about some new competitor restaurant that's doing better, probably Fazbear's if I had to guess. Who cares about the owner's problems? My problems matter to me a lot more, and I think that's a life lesson we could all take to heart. Mind your own fucking business. Only one new threat is introduced on this night, Melody the Bat. Thankfully, Melody acts as more of an annoyance character than an actual threat, and you really shouldn't have to worry too much about her. Melody will start on the west stage. From there, she'll move to the dining room, then the restrooms. Then she'll go to the hallway, to the hallway's corner, to the ordering station, then either the kitchen or the bar to visit me. Finally, depending on where she went, she'll either go to the parts and service or the dining room, and from there she'll jump back to the bathrooms. So, what is she actually doing all this time? Well, she has a chance to randomly attack one of the cameras. When she's attacking one, you'll get a notification in the corner of your cameras telling you so. You'll have to find the camera she's on and stare at her. If you don't, then she'll knock that camera out for the rest of the night. But get this, it really doesn't fucking matter. Her find her on the camera bullshit is pretty much nullified by the fact you really only need to watch 3 cameras throughout the entire game. So if she's not attacking any of those 3, then it doesn't really matter. Let them get fucked, nobody cares. Fang and Faye ramp up quite a bit on this night, so I don't really appreciate that. But with that, that's all night 2 really has to offer, and we can move on to the post-night 2 minigame. I'm very excited to see the Rabussy again. I can't lie, I'm rocking about a half chub right now just thinking about it. In this minigame, our Dom boss tells us to mop up the floors. I'll literally do anything you ask me, please. I don't think you understand. I'm such a degenerate. Anyways, fuck actually doing that. Behind the counter, we find a weird looking chair. Touch it and it'll take us back to Vane's world. If anybody gets that reference, I love you, by the way. Touch that weird looking thing again and we go back to the restaurant. Finish mopping and we can move on to night 3. Come on, let's keep it moving. Night 3 begins with another cutscene. In it, we're in a hallway this time, and we see this very tall, nice looking gentleman at the end of the hallway. Very cool. However, unfortunately, I literally don't care at all. Please, let's just move on to the night section. I really don't care about what the phone guy has to say on this night, but if you guys do, he basically tells us a story about how Fang was stuck in the vents, and they spent over an hour trying to get him out. Whoopity-doo, suck me off. Who's introduced on this night, and is it literally the worst character on the face of the planet Earth? Yes. The answer to that question is yes. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the literal cancer of the world, Nubs the Bear. Nubs is by far the most frustrating character in this entire game, and not even necessarily from his mechanic alone, but specifically from an anecdote I have from my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Nubs begins on the west stage. From there, he'll move to the dining room. Then he'll go to either parts and service or the entrance. Then the bar to greet me once again. Yes, I still haven't left. Then from there, he'll either go to the hallway or the ordering station, and finally, he'll enter the vent. If Nubs ever gets to your vent, there's no way to stop him because he will be crawling all the way inside of your butt. God damn it. Fuck me and my... what the fuck? I didn't see him anywhere. What the fuck, bro? I didn't see him. So, how do you stop him from doing that? Well, you can catch Nubs on 2 of the cameras he goes through, the hallway and the ordering station. If you stare at him for a few seconds, he'll reset. However, this is where literally Death Incarnate himself comes out in the form of Nubs. This game literally does not tell you which camera Nubs can appear in, and Nubs, being a very dark character, is incredibly hard to notice on the cameras if you don't know where to look. And on top of that, he also hides, making it even harder to see him. So a mix of all of this leads to you literally dying to Nubs because you have no way of knowing which fucking cameras he can appear on without hours and hours of trial and error. This is the bullshit I went through during my playthrough. This motherfucker right here is why I never wanted to touch this game again. This piece of shit spit in my asshole, ruptured my spleen, caused my appendix to burst, and gave me a brain aneurysm. I hate this guy so much. He's not even challenging to deal with. It's just a pain in the dick that it took me what felt like 4 fucking months to figure all of his bullshit out. I think I'd rather get a urethral swab than ever play this game again, specifically because of this asshole right here. Play the game yourself. Fuck you. I'm not even gonna tell you which cameras he appears on. I hate all of you. Fuck. And of course, if you couldn't guess, both Fang and Faye have been ingesting cocaine like a suppository, so they're absolutely cracked out of their minds. Dude, I don't even want to. I actually just don't want to play this. Riding me like a bike throughout the entire night makes the process of looking for Nubs the most foreskin ripping process on the planet. Damn. Anyways, rocking a full chub, we can move on to the minigame. Master tells us that we have to prep the tables, but we instead choose to find a broom and teleport to hell and touch a weird looking thing instead. Afterwards, we do snap back to reality and do what she says in hopes that she steps on me with her sweaty feet. Jesus Christ, what am I writing? This entire video has just been like disgusting line after disgusting line. I hope you freaks are happy. Let's move on to night 4. I don't know where we are, but that really tall guy is watching us again. All leaned over looking ass, spring Bonnie looking ass. I personally want to know why we're always on the floor in these cutscenes. It's a little ridiculous. Anyways, on to the night section. Guys, why does it feel like I'm always being tortured? Night 4 introduces a threat that is literally so annoying, so teeth gritting, so fist clenching. It's honestly impressive how the devs of this game just continue to make each night progressively more and more frustrating every single time without fail. Night 4 introduces Fang Sr. We've barely been introduced to any characters so far, and already we're repeating ourselves, so that's not a good sign. Fangs Sr. is quite literally, probably without a shadow of a doubt, the most annoying character from any FNAF game I've ever played. I'm seriously not exaggerating one bit. I'm completely serious. I unironically think I would rather play the entire Jolly series again than this game ever again. I'm so incredibly dead ass, it's not even funny. Fang Sr. has perfect synergy with Fang in literally the worst way imaginable. Fang Sr. can only attack from one entrance, but he defies all logic, and I hate him. He starts in parts and service. From there, he already starts doing whatever the fuck it is he wants. He'll go to either the entrance, the dining room, or the bar. 3 choices, who gives a shit? Then he'll either go to the ordering station or the kitchen. Finally, he'll hit the hallway corner, and that's when he does it. That's when he goes to your office door, just like Fang. However, unlike Fang, you can't shine your light at him. If even for a moment, a fraction of a second, even the smallest beam of light touches his eyes, you are completely fucked, and he'll make you arch your back like a college girl who left her long-term boyfriend to live the college experience. We all know what that's really code for. When Fang Sr. enters your office, you have to stand completely still. He'll stand in your office for literally 100,000 years before finally leaving. During this time, you can't open your cameras, you can't turn around, you can't flash your flashlight, you can't even turn your fucking head. You literally move even 1 inch and this guy will make you a part of the Me Too movement. So, if you haven't figured out what the 2 major problems are with this character, allow me to explain them to you. To start, let's talk about the obvious one. He sits in your office for so long that by the time he finally leaves, you'll have lost track of literally every other character, and there will probably be someone ready to be flashed, or Nubs will have made it into your vent. Wasn't fast enough, bro. Seniors was fucking my shit. He was fucking my shit up. Who knows? Who knows? That doesn't even matter anymore. And you can't even be good at this mechanic. And that's the most infuriating part. When Fang Sr. enters your office, you're basically just dropping to your knees and praying the game doesn't skull fuck you. Let's talk about the other glaring and much more frustrating issue with this character. We have to talk a bit more about Fang himself first. Tracking Fang really isn't necessary and is honestly not worth your time because it will leave you with more cameras you'll need to check when Melody is attacking. So it's much better to just quickly flash the vent and doorway every once in a while to check if Fang is there. But of course, now we have a character who, if we even flash for a millisecond, will kill us. So get ready to accidentally flash Fang Sr. over 12,000 times trying to beat this piece of shit. And we're only on night 4. It's going to get harder. Much, much harder. Like a shit ton harder. And not even skill-wise harder. Just dick-swinging Grandpa Fang limping his gimp ass into your room at random harder. During night 4's post-night minigame, we have to fill up cups because the customers are thirsty. I am personally thirsty for our boss, but I think I've made my stance on her objectively clear. Who cares about doing that? Touch whatever this thing is, go to the death world, touch this other thing I don't know the name of, finish filling the cups, and we can move on to night 5, aka Razor Blades in My Water Night. Night 5's cutscene has us yet again under a table in what appears to be parts and service. I think this robot on the floor in front of us is the character we've seen over the last few nights, but I can't be sure. Night 5 introduces nothing new, thank God. However, it does serve to be literally one of the most RNG-ridden, frustrating nights from any FNAF game I've ever played in my entire life. I would rather attempt post-shift 2 for an entire day. I cannot describe to you how much I did not enjoy this game. I almost feel bad constantly ripping on it, but to be fair, it kept constantly ripping my asshole. Since I don't have any new threats to bring up, and if I continue to shout I might go into cardiac arrest, I have nothing left to talk about aside from the post-night minigame. This time around we need to touch a barrel in the first room we're in. From there we touch the weird thing in the death area and then go to our future dungeon master. She tells us to bring the cake to the main room and we walk into the kitchen to do exactly that exactly then. Upon bringing the cake to the main room, both my wife and all of the children just stare at us. Upon talking to my owner, all she says is thanks, and the minigame abruptly ends. I don't want to tell you about the cutscene we see next. Just take a look. So yeah. That's actually just terrifying and one of the most disgusting and uncomfortable things I've seen in my entire life. The thought of hiding from one of these robots and it being intelligent enough to find you is unironically one of the scariest things of all time. And for all of the shit I've been giving this game throughout this whole video, I will say this cutscene is one of the most dread-inducing things I've ever seen in a FNAF game. So hats off for that. Oh yeah, one thing I should have mentioned that I just fucking didn't is that the only way you can get the post-night minigames is by finding a floppy disk during the night sections. So yeah, I'll just throw that in right here because I'm lazy. You're welcome. But with that, we can talk about Night 6, by far the most interesting nights in this entire game. And yes, it does still make me pee blood. If you've done all the weird minigame blood butt touching, then a new character will be active on this night, that being Miss Willow. Miss Willow is an owl and acts as this game's boss fight night. And a boss fight she really is. Except instead of a fight to survive her, it's a fight to prevent myself from putting a certain metal object to my temple. Miss Willow is literally just a find them on the camera character. I'm not kidding. That's literally her only fucking mechanic. She'll say, "Find me," and you have to do exactly that. Except she does this a lot, in very quick succession, constantly, throughout the whole night. This is not gameplay. This is torture. If you fail to find her 3 times in a row, she'll randomly appear in any of the 3 entrances to your office, where you'll have to flash her to make her reset. Except the window of time to do this is so astronomically low, it might as well not even exist. I cannot describe to you how frustrating and bullshit this boss fight is. I hate it. I never beat it. I didn't get to do it in my playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, but I did attempt it while writing this video. And yeah, no, I'll pass, thanks. Fuck this night and fuck this game. After completing the boss fight, there's one more minigame to talk about. In it, all we have to do is follow Willow around the building. She talks some bullshit about a her, not explaining who that is. I don't care, guys. Here's all of the text she says in the cutscene. Read it if you give a shit. I don't care enough. I'm so done at this point. Afterwards, the minigame ends. Turning around in our seat, we see that Willow has somehow gotten into our house. Her face cracks open and 2 small hands grab it from the inside, splitting the face open and jump scaring us, which I'm praying to God just killed us right there on the spot. But even after that, we're still not done. No, this game needs to keep a chokehold on me for just a little bit longer. We get one final cutscene where we're back in the vent for some reason. We hear a woman crying and Willow appears in front of the vent again, and we wake up from a fucking dream. Are you literally ripping my scrotum off? A dream game? Really? Fuck you. Literally fuck you and fuck your entire face. I hate you. That's pretty much all Fangs Pizza and Theater has to offer. There is an additional mode called Golden Days, which, since we're here, I guess I'll quickly talk about it. Five Nights at Fangs: The Golden Days is an older title in the Fangs series. This appears to be just that game as a director's cut packed into this game as well. I never played it for myself, and I actually didn't even know this existed until doing research for this video. The version in this game consists of only one night and only has Fang, Faye, and Nubs. Except it only seems like Fang can move. He'll wander through the building before appearing in your vent. Just hold your flashlight on him and he'll fuck off. From watching Indie Fuel, my guardian angel, play this night is so slow and nobody even moved until like 4 a.m. So this just seems awful. The only reason I choose to mention this game is the minigame that takes place after you beat it. In it, you play as a large rabbit, maybe the one from the final cutscene, and you're in someone's house. You're holding something, but I can't quite tell what it is. But we walk out of the house and get surrounded by some bullies. They say we have rabbit ears. They say nobody loves nerds, which is literally just the biggest lie of all time. Ladies can confirm. They tell us to shut up and that they never want to see our face again, which tells me that this character is either a child that got infused with a rabbit suit, maybe, or it's just a kid wearing a rabbit suit. I have no idea. I don't even know any characters' names as to who this could be. And lucky me, this video is long enough, so I don't have to care. But with that, that's all Fangs Pizza and Theater has to offer. This is truly the most infuriating FNAF game I have ever played in my life. I truly do not believe I will ever play a game that actually makes me so unhappy again in my life. I remember filming this game and how miserable I got every time I had to boot it up. I'm so glad it's over. I'm happy I finally got around to writing this video so this game would stop haunting my nightmares, and I hope you guys enjoyed me getting mad about it.